Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... There, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
Today, we'll have Aubrey's ASL-focused trip. That's coming up on this episode 489 of WDW Prep to go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep to Go, where we talk strategy and ideas and have lots and lots of trip reports or people planning their Disney World trips. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 489. When I wrote down this episode number, I couldn't believe it. The numbers just keep getting bigger and bigger. We're about to hit 500 in early 2026. Amazing. So today is another trip report, and this one is with Aubrey. And as you know, we like to pick guests that represent all different kinds of trips. And this one is very unique because Aubrey wanted to allow her child experiences with ASL, just like all young children learn language. A child that speaks sign language deserves that as well. And thankfully, Disney has those opportunities. I was very interested to hear more about how that works. I'll have our chats here in just a second. As always, a reminder to follow on social media and now on YouTube, where there are videos going out a couple times a week explaining things. In some ways, it is a lot like the content I used to have on the podcast 12 years ago, 11 years ago, where I would just pick a topic and talk about it for a little while. But we do a lot of trip reports here, both either my own or the guest trip reports. And so I'm using YouTube for that. And also it has the benefit of being very visual. So there's lots of graphics and things on the screen that can help explain something. So if you're into YouTube, be sure to head over there for more information. I think that is it for now. Let's jump into my chats with Aubrey.
Welcome to Podcast Aubrey.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here.
We're talking on Wednesday, November 5th, the night before I leave for Disney World, and I assume it's also very close to when you leave.
Yes, we leave a week from today.
Okay. I understand why on the schedule you had to talk to me now because all these dates are blocked out while I'm gone.
Yep.
So does that mean November 12th?
Yes, we're leaving November 12th. The plan is to leave early. We'll see. We're flying, so things are kind of crazy right now. We'll see what happens.
100%. You and I are both thinking about this because we don't know how the flights are going to go. What's the ending date for your trip?
We are coming back early on Sunday, November 16th.
Okay. All right. Who's we?
So we is myself, my husband, and our two kids. So I have two boys. Carrie is almost 4 and Sydney is almost 2.
Okay. And is this a first trip for anybody?
It is not. I grew up a Disney World kid, kind of got my husband into it when we got married, and we definitely took advantage of not having to pay for park tickets for our kids. So my oldest this will be his 4th trip, and then my youngest, this will be his 2nd. So,
okay.
And this is the first time we have to pay for tickets for my 3-year-old. So that hurt a little bit.
Well, you said 2 and 4. So are you talking about the youngest or the oldest?
The oldest.
Okay, but his previous trips, he was 3. Okay, got it.
Correct.
All right. Okay. So what is the occasion? Why are you going this time?
We kind of just plan. It's always that thing where we go and then I'm like, oh, I think I'm like good for a while. And then it's like, we need to get out of town. Like, where should we go? I guess we'll just go to Disney again. So, and then this trip, we kind of organized it around. So my youngest son, Sid, he's hard of hearing. And we're learning ASL as a family. So we sort of themed this trip around trying to go to as many ASL interpreted experiences as possible. So that's kind of the theme of this trip. And with him being almost 2, he is like talking and signing a lot, like in that burst of language. So I think it will be really fun. This time he'll kind of be able to actually know what's going on. And he recognizes like Mickey, Minnie, those, the basic characters.
Okay, so that's super interesting, and I love that he has that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, he's learning language just like any 2-year-old, but he has, he's in a minority, and Disney has these different accommodations, I guess. So can you talk about how you plan for that for Disney World? How do you know what's available?
Yeah, so they have a schedule. How it kind of works is they have ASL interpretation on set days for each park. So I don't have it up with me now. I have it like written into my schedule, but I believe that it's like, Magic Kingdom is always, I think, Mondays and Thursdays. Epcot is always Fridays. Animal Kingdom, I know, is at least on Saturdays because that's what I have in my schedule. So for our itinerary, it was a little bit predetermined for
Mhm.
us. We kind of picked the dates and then that kind of determined our park days. And it actually worked out really well. For how I actually got the plan together. But they have it's mostly shows. So this is going to be a very show centric trip. And then there are several attractions that have ASL interpretation. And I should just also say, like, I myself, I am not deaf or hard of hearing, so I can't speak to that experience as a deaf adult or like a family of deaf people, just to my experience with our son. They also, on their Disney's page, they have like closed captioning and that sort of stuff. Obviously, he can't read, so we're not going to be taking advantage of any of that stuff.
In a few
But
years.
yeah, but he is he will be very engaged. Like, we've been to things where there have been interpreters before. He laser focus, he watches them. So I know that he's, paying attention and gaining something from that experience, which is really cool.
I'm guessing you have probably seen some of the viral character interactions where the characters can sign. Is there any way to predict that?
Not that I know of. And yeah, I think it will just have to be, I think they'll kind of do it, at least the videos that I've seen, is if they see a parent, kind of
Mhm.
signing with their child on behalf of the child, because he will sign some, but it kind of just depends. And I also don't really know how he's going to react to characters yet.
Mhm. He's a
So
2-year-old, you never know.
yeah, and my oldest he's like can be hot and cold with
Mhm.
them. So we'll just have to see. This could be also different for him as well.
Mhm. Okay, well, I'm excited. I love how accessible it is for a lot of people. Not everybody,
Yeah.
but a lot of people. And this
Yeah.
is just one of those ways. So your parks per day were determined by this
Yep.
schedule. So let's start walking through your plan. So Wednesday, November 12th, I assume you're flying because we're both stressed about flying.
Yep. Yes, we are flying. We're leaving early. It's probably one of the first flights out of Milwaukee. So we're leaving at 5:50 a.m. Luckily, we live pretty close to the airport, so the plan is kind of like get everything ready, get the kids up very last thing, just get them sleepy in the car, and then drive over there, and then we'll arrive in Orlando at 9:35 uh, Eastern time.
Mhm.
For transportation, we booked a car service MCO to Disney. I'm excited about trying that. We've never done it, so that's something new for our trip, but just kind of weighing out like the different, costs and benefits, just having two kids that need car seats, being able to make a grocery stop, someone help us with luggage, and I am not good at packing light. That kind of factored into it. So I think that I'm excited to try, and I think it will be a good option for us.
What transportation did you use before?
Before, the last trip that we went on was a big family trip, and we rented cars and stayed off-site. And then one time we did I forget which bus it was, but we did one of the buses, and that was really tough with I think at the time, Carrie was 15 months old, and that was tough because it was like we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's like trying to either get him to fall asleep or just keep him entertained for another like hour plus until we could get on the bus and go. So I think this will be worth it to be able to get straight there and just get settled and relax on that point.
Okay. So along between the airport and your hotel, you're making a stop for groceries.
I think that's the plan. So that's like included in the price of the ride. That I think they give you like a suggested Publix, and you can just place like a curbside pickup order. So it should be like we literally just pull in, someone will bring it out, or we pop in to grab it, and then we can be on our way.
Okay. And then where are you going? Where are you staying?
We are staying this time at Port Orleans Riverside. So it kind of booked this trip like, I guess in Disney terms, a little bit last minute, probably like, I think it like several months ago. So didn't have like a super
Mhm.
big range of resorts to choose from. But we've never stayed at Port Orleans Riverside, so that'll be another fun new thing for us to do. And last time we stayed offsite, and there are good things about that, pros and cons to both, but I'm excited to be staying back on property.
Okay. And you're arriving pretty early, so you have time to do things. What else you got on this day?
So we're definitely not doing a park day this day. We're just keeping it relaxed. And since we're staying on property, I think the plan is, we'll check in on the room situation, see if our room is even ready. But the plan is just we're going to eat just at the food court at Port Orleans Riverside, and then just take advantage of like the resort time and resort activities. So I'd love to go to the pool. I think that will be really fun. And I know they do, there's like arts and crafts or movies or other little things like that. I think they might have Surrey bikes. I'm kind of interested in maybe doing that. I think the kids would find that fun. And one of the things that I have heard about Port Orleans Riverside is just like how beautiful the grounds are and how pretty it is to like walk along the water. So I think that would be nice to kind of just wander around. I think there's playgrounds at every resort. So I'm assuming Riverside also has one. My kids will love that. So that's kind of the plan, is just to like really take it easy. And, if they need to sleep, we're close to the room, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So a day at the resort on this day. Then let's go to November 13th, Thursday.
Yeah, so Thursday is our Magic Kingdom day, and this is a party day, which initially I was kind of like, oh, we won't be able to stay out late. But then I kind of realized there's a big advantage to this because there's usually super, super low crowds. And we're not going to be staying out we wouldn't even be staying out until park close anyway, even if we could do that. So I think it will end up being a really good plan. So I'm really excited for that. And it's been a while since I've experienced like level 2, 3 crowds at Magic Kingdom. So this will be a good experience. Yeah, we're planning on leaving early and taking advantage of the early entry. Another thing about this trip, since it's just the two of us and the 2 kids, I think it's mostly going to be like kid-centric rides, and we're not planning on doing a ton of like rider swapping and trying to do like grown-up rides because we've done them. We'll be back to do them again. So it's okay to skip them this time around. So I'm honestly thinking we're going to rope drop Winnie the Pooh because my oldest is really liking Winnie the Pooh right now. So I think we're going to do that. See what else we maybe have time for in that area. And then our first sort of timed event there is an ASL Jungle Cruise ride. So I think it will be Jingle Cruise at the time we're there. But for most of the ASL experiences, they'll put in the recommendations like arrive 15 minutes early, arrive 20 minutes early, and go to a certain like side of the stage or meet at a certain location. So
I have a question about that. So
Sure.
Because Magic Kingdom is the day on this day where there's ASL, like for an example of Jungle Cruise, are there only certain times you can ride Jungle Cruise, or can you do it anytime as long as you give them a heads up that you're there?
This is the one time. So it's a 10 o'clock. They have it as 10 o'clock ride is the ASL Jungle Cruise ride. And Jungle Cruise is one of like the only rides where they have the ASL interpretation. And we've never done this particular one before. So this will be interesting to see. They say to like meet, I think you're supposed to meet the cast member. They'll be like outside the ride, meet them there 15 minutes ahead of time. And I'm assuming you just tell them, oh, we're here for the ASL interpreted ride. And then we will do that. And hopefully that goes off without a hitch.
Your schedule is sort of determined for you in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like to, like, I have my spreadsheet up here and I have it like blocked out. But it was sort of like, I was putting in the blocks of the things that were predetermined and then kind of just filling in what we could do and what made sense, what was in the area.
What else do they have available other than Jungle Cruise?
So for this day, we're planning on there's 4 total things. There's Jungle Cruise, Mickey's Magical Friendship Fair, the Festival of Fantasy Parade, and Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor. So the plan is kind of try to hit all of them, especially like love the parade. That's a big draw. But then, depending on how everyone's doing, with kids, it's always play it by ear. That's just kind of how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah. So going on from Jungle Cruise after that, I'm hoping we're kind of going to go back to the Main Street area to be in the hub area for the Mickey's Magical Friendship Fair, which starts at 11:35. And then again, that's another one they recommend getting in place like 15-ish minutes early. So we'll probably like just grab a snack, hang out in the hub grass. My oldest son loved to just run around on the grass last time. He didn't want to be pulled away to do anything else. So I think that will be fun for them. After the show, and that one we have done before. How that one works is they just say to go to the right side of the stage and the interpreters stand on like a little platform. So it's sort of just like making sure that you're in the space where you can see them. And I do remember last time I asked a cast member where the interpreters would be, they kind of pointed me there. And then I did see them like talk to the interpreters and point out like, oh, those people are here for the interpretation. So they knew that there were people that were there for that.
Mm-hmm.
So after that show, I think this is kind of like the gray area of the middle of the day where we just kind of assess how the kids are doing, see if we need to try to catch a stroller nap or, something like that, just kind of refresh and kind of just leave that flexible and open. So then their next timed event is the Festival of Fantasy Parade. So the viewing area for that one is in Liberty Square. And that one, they recommend you get there 20 minutes early. And I did find that to be true last time we were there. So we'll kind of just try to entertain the kids, have food, or, probably have had lunch sometime in that time before that, watch the parade. And then after that, I made my lightning lane selections this morning. And so one of the adult things we are doing, I did get the single pass for Tron. My husband loves Tron and he's never ridden the Tron ride. So I got that for $225 to $325 and figured we could hang, while we're swapping kids and the other parent can go on the People Mover. There's lots of stuff to do in that area or Storybook Circus area. So that will make it easy. And then the very last time thing of the day is the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, which is at 4, and they recommend you get there 20 minutes early. And I think that will be fun. I personally love the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. I mean, obviously my kids are not going to comprehend it as much, but I think it will still be really fun. And I enjoy it.
But this is how kids learn language.
Yeah, exactly.
they may not comprehend everything, but they'll get some stuff, and it's fun to look at.
Yeah, and comedy.
It's comedy. The animation, I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll like it too.
Yeah. And then after that, I kind of have like empty space in the schedule. I figure at that point, especially we're not going back to the room for naps. My older still naps, but he can hang without a nap. My youngest Sid he'll probably catch a stroller nap at some point during the day. So then the plan is to leave the park. I'm kind of keeping this flexible in terms of transportation, but I'm thinking maybe minivan home just because getting out of Magic Kingdom, I think it will be a little bit more convenient. So do that. And then I think we'll just have like a quick service. We'll just like eat at the food court again. The kids can eat at the food court. And then I was thinking maybe once the kids are sleeping, one of us parents could pop out to Disney Springs and grab some either treats or like more adult dinner to bring home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the plan for Thursday.
Okay. Interesting, and seems like a good plan, and hopefully you won't have a lot of crowds. Between the lightning lanes and the low crowd day, hopefully it'll be easy.
Yeah. So that brings us to Friday, November 14th. So that's our Epcot day. The plan again is to try to make it for early entry. I think we'll see. I think we'll have like a light breakfast at the hotel, just like see how we're doing. This one was like I was having a really hard time trying to like hit all the things that we maybe want to hit. So the plan is maybe do Frozen. I don't know.
Can you first tell me the list of things that are available here that you're going to be doing that are ASL?
Yes. So there's 2 things at Epcot. There's Turtle Talk with Crush, which I think is like one of my most anticipated things just because Sid loves turtles. And he knows the sign for turtle. So I think he'll be very excited about that. And I think that's just like a really cute, really like kid-friendly, fun one to do. So we'll do Turtle Talk. And then the other one is the Encanto stage show, which is at 11:45. Yeah, for all of these, similar to the Jungle Cruise thing, even if there are multiple performances a day, there's only one that they have scheduled for the interpretation.
What time is the Turtle Talk one?
That one is at 9:40. So early.
All right. So then walk us through, because you're early entry. Then what?
Then I think we're either going to go to Frozen or meet Pooh. I think that's one of the 2 things. So we'll kind of see how that works out.
But
Then-
during early entry, frozen.
Yes, that's the plan. And we'll just see how much time we have left because we have to be at that turtle talk. They recommend
At 9:40.
it looks like 20, if my math is correct. No, 15 minutes beforehand.
Okay.
So that's like we'll abandon if we don't have time to do something else after that. We'll just head straight there, hang out in the seas, like aquarium area, and look around. And then after Turtle Talk, we have a reservation at Garden Grill for, I guess it's kind of like a brunchy time, so 10:25. Another thing that's new that we've never done, and I like doing character meals with the kids because it's a good chance to meet the characters and also very low pressure if they don't like them. If they're a little bit scared, it's really easy for, they pick up on that and it's easy for them to say, okay, like, we'll just, goodbye, Mickey, or like, I'll take a picture, and then they can just be on their way, and the kids are good with that.
Yeah.
So after that is the Encanto shows at 11:45. So that one we'll try to get there a little bit early for. And I honestly think that depending on how the morning goes, that's another one that like if we had to skip it, I would be okay with it. The priority for that day is Turtle Talk. And then we are planning on taking a midday break on this day. So we're going to, either bus or minivan back, I think, depending on how we're feeling. And then we'll take like a solid, if the kids nap, like we'll probably be out of the park for like a solid 2 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will be like much needed after like a busy day, the day before and busy morning.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping to get back around like 4 o'clock-ish, or that's kind of what I am anticipating. And then we'll stroll World Showcase and do KidCot. That's kind of the plan. My husband and I think Epcot is both our favorite parks, we'd probably say. And I love to just like walk around there, and Food and Wine will still be going on. So we can kind of just eat around the world, catch like Streetmosphere stuff if that's going on. And I think the kids will have a lot of fun with KidCot. So that's the plan there. And then once we make it all the way around and back to the front of the park, we have our other lightning lane for Guardians. So we're planning to rider swap Guardians. That's at 7:35. And the Moana experience is pretty close by. So I figured one parent will ride Guardians, the other will be in Moana with the kids, and then we will swap.
Okay. All right. I love you guys, you're getting single passes just to kind of do some of the big rides.
Yeah, and we both love Guardians. I think that's also like, I would say that's my favorite ride. So that's like, I cannot miss. Like I would do anything to ride Guardians.
Yeah. And why not? Okay. That sounds like a fun day. Saturday, November 15th.
Yeah, and then so the 15th is our Animal Kingdom day. We are doing a non-Animal Kingdom breakfast first. So we have an 8:15 a breakfast reservation for 1900 Park Fare. And I kind of put it on this day because there's just not as much stuff to do, or that I guess that we want to do at Animal Kingdom, or it did work out that was the best day to slot it in. So we'll be doing that character dining at 1900 Park Fare, and it's early enough that we'll still have plenty of time in Animal Kingdom.
And you've already talked about using minivans. So is this like an occasion where you expect to do that?
I did put that in. On most of these, I have minivan question mark. So I think we'll kind of see how we're feeling. And we've never taken a minivan before, so I don't know exactly like what the wait times are like and, the price and stuff. But I kind of just built that in, figuring that we'll take it at least once, if not 2 or 3 times. Because otherwise for this, I think what we'd have to do is we'd have to take the bus we'd have to take the Magic Kingdom bus to the TTC and then do the resort monorail, which could also be a fun experience in itself. So
you could take the bus from Riverside to Magic Kingdom, and then from there, however you want to get the Grand Floridian, boat, walk, monorail.
We could walk. And I think the weather's going to be pretty gorgeous. So that might be a good opportunity for a little early morning stroll.
It just depends if you have time.
Yeah, I do like that idea, though. Yeah, it does depend on how early we get out.
Yeah. And what made you want to book 1900 Park Fare? Is there a favorite character there?
I think it's just like a good variety of characters. And we did eat there last time and loved the food.
Okay.
So I think that was a big factor in it. And yeah, the characters are just like a fun variety. So we kind of have with like the 2 dining reservations that we have, it's like one like Fab Five, the costume characters, and then one with the face characters. And I think that kind of makes a nice balance.
Mm-hmm. Are you taking a bus from there to Animal Kingdom?
That is the plan.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll take the bus to Animal Kingdom, and the first timed event that we have to be there for is the Finding Nemo show. So at Animal Kingdom today, there are, for the ASL interpretation, there's Finding Nemo, the Feathered Friends in Flight show, and then Lion King.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll have to get to Finding Nemo they recommend 20 minutes early. And that one I do know there's because obviously that theater is so huge, there is a seating section to view the interpretation. So we'll do that show. And I know my kids will love that. We love fish. We love Nemo. It's just a crowd pleaser for everybody.
What are the times for these? Finding Nemo is?
Yeah. Finding Nemo is 11.
Mm-hmm.
The Feathered Friends in Flight show is 1:45. And Lion King is at 4. And I think for this day, like the thing that we're trying to preserve energy for is Lion King. We really want to do that with the kids. We haven't done it. I haven't seen it in a while. I think they also revamped it in the past couple years, if I'm remembering correctly.
They revamped the Finding Nemo show.
Okay.
Lion King went from its full version to a pared down version and then back to the full version.
Okay. And I don't think I ever saw the pared down version, so it's been that long since I've seen it. And another one where like my son knows a lot of animal signs. He loves giraffes, loves elephants. I think that will be really fun. So yeah, after the Finding Nemo show, planning to do just a quick service lunch. I'd like to do Flame Tree Barbecue. I've never tried it. Another thing I haven't mentioned yet, but I'm vegetarian, which it almost doesn't need mentioning anymore because Disney has gotten really good with their plant-based options. I never have, at least for me personally, I never have a problem finding good food to eat. And they have plant-based options at pretty much every quick service. So,
but you're going to a barbecue place, Flame Tree.
Yes.
Barbecue.
And I did check the menu and they have, it's called I think it was plant-based burnt ends. Whatever it was sounds amazing. So I'm in to try it.
Okay.
So after that, I figured we'll have a little bit of downtime, good opportunity for a stroller nap if we need to do that, and just walk the animal trails, which I think a lot of times is something we don't take the time to do. But we love to look at animals. Here at home, we love going to the zoo, and I think it's just a nice little midday, relax and calm down.
Mm-hmm.
So the next timed event is that Feathered Friends in Flight show. That's at 1:45. I have never done that show, and I think that's another one, kind of just play by ear. If we needed to skip it, if the kids are tired, losing their minds, we just need a little bit more of a break, I would be okay skipping that one, but would also be cool to see if we can make it. And then, like I mentioned before, I would rather skip that so that we're all better by the time Lion King starts than try to push it too hard and have everybody be exhausted and just not ready to sit down and watch that show. So after that, we'll have about an hour and a half-ish before arriving for the Lion King show. And I thought that'd be a good time to do Rafiki's Planet Watch. So another fun, nice animal experience a little bit out of the way. Petting zoo the kids will like. So I thought that'd be a good opportunity for that. And then that brings us to Lion King, which this one, and I know this gets filled up quickly. They do recommend 30 minutes ahead of time, which I think of all the experiences that have the interpretation, this one is the one they recommend getting there the earliest for, which I get because I think it gets crowded quickly. So that one, again, we're really trying to do whatever we can to make sure that works out. So after the Lion King show, if we have time and everyone's doing okay, the plan is it would be nice to see the new Zootopia Tree of Life show before we leave. So I think we will try that out. And then if we get to do that, or if not, then we'll be leaving the park after that. I think it closes at 7 that day. We're not going to stay all the way until 7. We'll probably leave, between 5 and 6, depending on how everyone's doing. And then no solid dinner plans that night. It's kind of the plan gets looser as the day goes on, just to allow for that flexibility and not have anything booked up that we have to worry about canceling or anything like that. So think we'll just like make it an early night because we are out early the next morning. So we'll probably just end up doing like a quick service or just the food court again, which should be sufficient.
Exactly. Quick service, a little bit more laid back.
Mm-hmm.
So flexible. Okay. So Sunday, November 16th.
Yeah, Sunday we're leaving early. So again, fingers crossed that flights work out, but our flight is at 8:50 out of Orlando. So we're going to get picked up by the same car service, planning on leaving around like 6:15 from the hotel. So that's another good reason to have an early night the night before so we have time to pack up, everyone can get rested, and then we'll be out pretty early. And the good thing about having the early flight is, knock on wood, but if there are any delays or anything, we don't have to necessarily be back for anything. And it's not like it's way past the kids' bedtime. We have a lot of wiggle room there. So
Exactly. Okay. Is there anything about your trip that we haven't talked about?
I don't think so. It's really interesting, like looking over this now, like it will just be like, it was a lot predetermined for us. So it will just be kind of like seeing where we can squeeze in extra things. And I think like one of my favorite things about Disney is just like the atmosphere and being there. So it is like those little, just, walking down a path and experiencing like the sights and smells and all of that stuff. So it's kind of just squeezing those things in between those timed events and just really not trying to put too much pressure on ourselves in between to like, oh, we need to get to this ride and get these things done. It's really just like getting to those shows and then in the space between, just enjoying each other's company, enjoying some food, enjoying the good weather.
Yes. And fingers crossed for those flights.
Yes.
You already, you have a 2 and a 4-year-old. You don't need other things to worry about.
Exactly.
So, okay. Well, this sounds like a fun trip, and I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks when you get back.
That sounds good.
Okay.
See you then.
Okay. Only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... There, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
Welcome back from trip, Aubrey.
Thank you. We've been back about a little less than a week. So I think like this time last week, we were hanging out in Animal Kingdom, which is a little bittersweet to think about.
Yeah, we're talking on Saturday, November 22nd, and you got back last weekend. So you've had almost a week to recover and reflect. How do you think your trip went overall?
Our trip went amazing. I think this might be one of my favorite Disney trips ever, and definitely my favorite that we've ever taken with the kids. So,
okay,
like 10 stars.
Okay, I can't wait to hear why it is a 10-star trip. Let's start at the beginning, obviously, with Wednesday, November 12th, where you were flying in pretty early. So you had kind of almost a full day.
Yes, I'm happy to report we did not have any flight issues. I got an email from Southwest, like I think the weekend, like the Saturday or Sunday before we left, that was like confirming our flight was not going to be affected. So that definitely put me at ease. So that was really nice. Yeah, we got up early that morning. So that was Wednesday morning, probably got up at like 2:45, 3 a.m. But everything went great. The kids woke up happy. We had a really good flight and we arrived in Orlando on time about like 9:30-ish. And then from there, we met our driver at the baggage claim, which was great because I am incapable of traveling light. And especially with the kids, it's just like we just end up packing so much stuff no matter how hard I try to pack lightly. So that was great because he helped us with our bags, there was like a kind of like separate like parking area that the drivers pull up in. So we got to go there. That was really nice. We did travel with one car seat. So the kids both had their own seats on the flight. And my youngest used the car seat actually on the flight. So they had one car seat for us installed. And then we just used our own as the other one. So that was by like 10 a.m. We were on our way to Port Orleans. We did have a grocery stop. So that was about like 15 minutes into the drive. We stopped for the groceries and that took like 5 minutes for them to come out and bring the groceries.
Because it was an order you had placed ahead of time. So you were literally just picking it up.
Correct. And then we arrived by 10:40. So like from airport with the grocery stop to the hotel was 40 minutes, which is really, really good. That was amazing. It was a great start to our trip. Like could not have asked for a better like transportation experience. So I
And
was
it's
really pleased with that.
and only an hour from your flight arriving to the time you got to the resort, which is
Yeah.
amazing because sometimes the baggage claim can take a little while. Like anything can
Yeah.
happen, but that was quick.
Yeah, it all worked out really great. Like definitely would consider doing that again, especially with little kids. Like you don't have to wait, like really young kids, you don't have to wait for a bus. You're not trying to entertain them in a line. You don't have to, have multiple stops. So that was just really nice for
What was
us.
the car service that you used?
MCO to Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And I can
Oh,
tell
I
you.
actually wrote it down, but I thought it was just a note. She's taking a private car from MCO to Disney.
Yeah.
That's their actual name.
Yeah. And I think it's with the number 2. I think.
Oh, the MCO to
number 2
Disney.
Disney. And I can tell you how much that cost too. So the total cost, because we use it round trip, the total cost for the car was $285 and then plus tip on top of that for both the drivers on there and the way back. So not cheap, but I thought worth every penny.
And is the grocery stop included or does it cost extra?
The grocery stop is included depending on where you stop. So they give you 2 options, and we just stopped at the one, like the Publix that was on the way that they recommended, and that was no additional cost. And I should say too, there are like when you go through their dialogue box of all the options, like there are additional costs for like if you are dropping off or picking up at multiple resorts, but they can do that. But we were just like dropping off at and picking up at the same place, and then just included grocery stop. So I would highly recommend it if it's in your budget to do so.
Mm-hmm. So you got to Riverside.
Yes, we got to Riverside. We dropped our bags with Bell Services. Our room was obviously not ready yet, which we anticipated. So we kind of had packed like our pool stuff on top, kind of just took that out, dropped our bags, and then we still were there in time for breakfast. So we mobile ordered some breakfast, which was great because we were all starving, especially my husband and I. We ate a little bit in the morning, but we'd been up since like 3 a.m. So that was really great. The food was great. The kids were happy. And then from there, we went and played on the playground for a little bit, which I just love that they have playgrounds at the resorts. It's just a great way, especially after we're sitting, on the plane in the car for a while, just for them to like get some energy out. And then my older son was asking to go to the pool because we were right next to it. And he's like, let's go to the pool, like seeing it. And I'm like, okay, well, now I have to do the whole thing, get in our suits and all that stuff. But we did do that. And actually, we just ended up changing just the kids because we went in the kiddie pool area. So my husband and I just like rolled up our pants, shorts, and just like waited in the pool with them. While we were there at some point while we were there, we got a call that our stroller was ready. So we did order a stroller also. We had just like a little tiny travel stroller that we used in the airport, but we ordered like a double stroller to use at the parks.
Which company did you use?
We did Kingdom strollers, which we've used before and have always had a good experience with. And I just like, it's actually so relatively affordable. So the stroller for the 4 days or however long we were there was just under $120. And for me, I'd rather pay that and, just pick it up there, drop it off, than bring our own stroller, risk it getting broken or, lost, damaged in any way because they're expensive. And we have the same double stroller that we rent there. So we're used to it.
Okay. And that was going to be my next question is because there's a lot of collapsing of strollers when you're riding the buses, but this is one you were familiar with.
Yes. Yep. So we knew the drill and we have gotten pretty practiced at like piling all our stuff into a bag before we get on the bus and all of that stuff. So I definitely, just prefer to order the stroller than that way. Just not worrying about our own stuff and to not have to bring a double stroller through the airport too. I feel like that's kind of a lot, but so at that point we got the stroller, and then this was around like 1:00. We were kind of done at the pool and my youngest needed to take a nap. So got him in the stroller and just started kind of walking around the grounds. He fell asleep and then we were kind of just walking. My older Carrie, he loved running around on the grass. We just kind of found some grassy areas at the resort and he was running around. And at that point, we decided to walk to French Quarter to get some beignets. So we walked all the way over to French Quarter, which is really nice. The weather was gorgeous. And I think this was sort of the first time we really got a feel for the resort. I really, really loved Port Orleans Riverside and being close to French Quarter both. I think like I loved how like isolated it felt, and not in a bad way. Like it feels very like there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of nature. It feels like very secluded in a really nice way. So that I really loved about the resort. That was definitely a plus compared to like we haven't stayed, but I've been over at like Caribbean Beach area before, and I like that resort, but it definitely has more of like you can see like the tall tower like hotels next to it, and it just feels more of like you're in a city or whatever. So it kind of depends on just what you want. But I, for this trip, loved how quiet and secluded Riverside felt.
I think you make some good points. I think all the moderates have pros and cons. It just depends what vibe you're after. And
Yeah.
what you just described is a perfect example of why someone might like Riverside. Just really pretty.
Yeah. And it was like also just quiet in general. Like there were obviously people there, but it always felt like when we were walking around, just felt very peaceful. And that was also a really nice start to the trip.
And I will tell you, sometimes when people have little kids like you do, they want the opposite because they want their kids to fit in with the noise. But it sounds like maybe the quiet helps your family to be calmer.
It did. I think so. So yes, at that point we were at French Quarter for beignets. Sid was still napping in the stroller, and we just sat and ate our beignets outside. That was really nice. Walked back to the hotel, and we're just trying to kill some time. So at that point, I think it was about like 2:30. Sid had woken up, and so we just went to the arcade because, of course, my son saw that and was like, I want to go in there. Like, what are all these flashing lights and cars and all that stuff? So we did just put like $20 on a card, and just like we were the only ones in there, just kind of played some games to kill some time. And while we were in there, got the text that our room was ready. So that was ready about 2:45. Our room was ready. So then at that point, we walked to our room. I actually don't know. So we paid for like a standard room, but I feel like the location of ours was really pretty good. So we were in the Magnolia Terrace section. So whenever we walked from the main lobby area, we had to go like across the bridge to the island, walk around the island a little bit, cross one more bridge. But then our room was basically like, we had to go, a little bit through those outer hallways, but our room was pretty much like right off of that main bridge area. We didn't have to walk long, like left or right to get there.
What building number is that?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head. It was right next to one of the pools also.
Okay, there's a pool between 80 and 85, which are Magnolia Terrace buildings. So it's probably one of those.
One of those, and we were in a first floor room.
Okay. All right. I'm glad that you liked the location. It's a huge resort.
Yeah, and the room was great. The room was gorgeous. I will say, like, I love Pop Century, and having stayed there a lot, like, there's a place in my heart for Pop Century, but I definitely, you can tell, like, the more you pay, there is a difference of, like, the upgrades, how nice the room feels. The resort as well, but especially the room, I really, really liked it. It was just really pretty. Definitely it was one of those like recently updated with like it had like the Tiana pictures on the walls, and like that, like the kind of the Bayou like painting behind the beds. So yeah, just really gorgeous room. I loved it. Okay, so we're in the room at that point. We kind of just were hanging out. We put on some cartoons, and we're just changing out of our wet swim clothes. I did also call and order some of the bed bumpers at that point because we just had the kids like sitting on the bed, and I just wanted to kind of make like a little area for them. That's one thing I would maybe try to plan to do a little bit differently next time, or I don't know how I could do this. But one thing about just staying in the hotel rooms with little kids is there's not really a safe area for them to sit. Like you do still have to monitor them at all times because like the chairs on the table are too tall really for them to sit in by themselves, at least my kids. And then the bed, obviously they can roll or fall off of that. So the bed bumpers helped. And obviously when the cartoons were on, they were kind of just like watching that. But I think in the future, I would maybe like bring some sort of like foldable mat or blanket or something to create like a sitting area just for them that they could hang out on the floor and like eat or like read or whatever. But the bed bumpers did work out pretty well and will come into play later in the night. And I was glad that we have them. So after that, we decided that we were going to go to Disney Springs for dinner, that we were just going to kind of check it out. So about 4:10 we left and got on the boat to Disney Springs from Port Orleans. And that was about a 20-minute ride. And it was a really nice, again, another beautiful, like peaceful ride. Definitely took longer than I thought, but it was nice. So we kind of did like a speed run of Disney Springs, I would say. We were really only there for like about an hour, but we did just like a quick run through of World of Disney, just kind of checking out what was there, maybe like flagging some things to get later. We grabbed some cupcakes at, what is the place called? Sprinkles. And then we ended up just getting quick service, like Earl of Sandwich for dinner, because at that point, like the kids were not going to sit for dinner and we just needed something quick. So we both got sandwiches, and then I got like the pizza bread, which is just like cheesy bread for them. And we got in line for the boat, and we were just kind of like feeding them little pieces of the pizza bread while we waited for the boat. So that worked out well. We left Disney Springs about 6:00, and then we're back at our room at 6:30. So for the boat ride and then walking back to our room. We definitely were going for an early night that night. So we turned on like the little bedtime stories, which they love throughout the whole trip that they do on like the TV there. So Sydney was in a pack and play. And then we had brought we had like a blow up like toddler bed that we had brought for Carrie. And he slept in it before, but he was just like tossing and turning, like couldn't relax, didn't want to go to sleep. So that went on for about like 15 to 20 minutes. He just like couldn't relax. We had brought our sandwiches back. We hadn't eaten yet. And so we both like just were eating in the dark because Sydney was asleep at that point. And so at that point, we were kind of just like, okay, like forget about the toddler bed. And we just like threw him in the bed with the bumpers on it. And then I ended up just getting in bed with him and helping him fall asleep. And then that's kind of how the rest of the trip went, is Sydney slept in the pack and play as planned. And then Carrie and I just slept in the bed with the bumpers, and my husband slept in the other bed. So it worked out.
Yeah, you had to figure out your configuration. Where did you get the pack and play?
We brought the pack and play with us. I know that Disney provides them, but they always say it's like not guaranteed.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, for just bringing the extra pack and play, and we just used it. It was like a checked bag for us. The risk of not having it, I'm like, is worth just the little bit of extra hassle of bringing it with us. And then also, again, we know it's our pack and play. We know it's all functional and it works. So that worked out well, and we just brought it with us. And the toddler bed is like a blow up thing, so it just collapses down to like, I don't know, the size of like a 12 by 12 like little package. So that was fine because we just deflated it and then like shoved it under the bed for the rest of the trip because he slept in the bed with the bumpers. And we'd probably just do that again next time. Just plan on him sleeping in the bed.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you figured it out.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we definitely had to do some like, creative rearranging. We like pushed the table to the side and then put the pack and play there. I'm sure that some people have like really clever arrangements that they do for the rooms. And that's definitely something I would do like a little bit more, like maybe research into next time to make it feel like a little bit more functional, but it worked out fine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that night we were all asleep by 8:00, which was great because we were going to be up early the next morning. Yeah. And I think I mentioned earlier, but my like theme from this day, I think, is just the merits of getting to Disney early and having a full resort day. This day was so wonderful. It was a great start to our trip. It was so low pressure, not planning to go anywhere or be anywhere. We kind of just like did what we felt. And I loved having, as long as you come prepared, that you can get, whatever stuff you might need for the resort day out easily, like a change of clothes, your sandals, if you're going to be, at the pool, your swim stuff, obviously. It was really great. And I think this is another thing that I would definitely do again, is take an early flight, get there early so we have a full day to just hang out and explore the resort, especially if you're paying for it. Take advantage of all the amenities there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that like you managed to have a full day, but you didn't have like dining reservations to get to, which can increase the stress.
Right, definitely. And yeah, that, especially with travel, you never know how, you could be delayed multiple hours and not be able to make it to things. So that was really nice to just have the freedom. And they do have so much stuff there at the resort. And it gave us a chance to take advantage of things that, when you are people that, spend full days at the parks or most of a full day at the park, you don't get to take advantage of that stuff. So I am a new, I guess, big fan of taking an early flight and having the resort day.
Okay.
Okay. Only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first, there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
But speaking of full days at the park, let's talk about your next day, which was Thursday, November 13th, and it was a Magic Kingdom day for you.
It was. So to start off the morning, someone's alarm in the room above us went off at 4:15, and I could not fall asleep after that. So I was kind of up, like tossing and turning. I was trying to fall back asleep. Everyone else was asleep, but I could not get back to sleep. So I think I just went on my phone, was kind of looking at our plan for the day, read a little bit of my book, and then by 5:45, 6, everyone else was up. So that was fine. It worked out fine. We had gone to sleep early the night before. So got everyone ready. That took like about an hour for everyone to get ready, pack up all our stuff, our stroller and all that. And at 7:10, we left the room and got on the bus. That's another thing, that our room was pretty close to a bus stop. So I think it was the East Depot, I want to say, was our bus stop. It was the one right before the main lobby stop.
Okay. Yes, I can see it on the map.
Yeah, and that worked out well because we didn't really have any issues with like the fact that, there had been 2 stations loading before us. We always were pretty much able to find, or at least we always got on the bus, and there was always space for us. So that worked out well. We got to the park at 7:33, and then by 7:50 we were actually inside the park. So I feel like every transportation on this trip, whether boat, bus, or whatever, every single trip took basically average 20 minutes from where we were. So I don't know, kind of just a little interesting tidbit.
And do you have a routine with your family of going through security? Because you have a lot of stuff.
Yes, what we usually do is, same with getting on the bus, is we have like an extra bag. So I had just like a big bag, and we just throw everything in the bag that was in the bottom of the stroller or hanging off the stroller, because we have like a hook for water bottles and stuff. Throw all that stuff in the bag, and then, we kind of left the kids in the stroller, and then one parent, usually, sometimes both of us would go, but sometimes they're more strict about it where they only want one parent to go with the stroller. And so then it would be like whichever person was not pushing the stroller took the bag, and we also had like backpacks, fanny packs. So that person would go through the security, then the other parent takes the kids. And I think sometimes they made my older son get out of the stroller, and other times they didn't. It kind of just depended. But we didn't have any issues throughout the whole time with security. We always got through like pretty speedily, I would say.
It didn't beep on you and make you go through all your like little kid gear?
No, and that was good because, we, again, don't travel light even when we go to the parks. Like I had a backpack, we had the diaper bag, and then all like the various like, water bottles, like just accoutrement that pile up.
I know. I have a lot of empathy for people with little kids because there's just so much to consider.
Yeah. And you don't want to get, I think part of my motivation of that comes from like, I don't want to get caught having to buy like, a $20 extra shirt or like pack of underwear or something if someone has an accident. Like I'd much rather just have all the stuff, and then not feel like, oh, I just under pressure had to buy something that was like, 2-3 times as expensive as it would be at home.
100%. What was your first stop when you got in the Magic Kingdom?
Yeah. So, we were in at 7:50, and I took the kids and we just went and hung out on like the hub grass by the castle while my husband grabbed coffee and breakfast at Starbucks. So our plan was not really to rush off to any like ride in particular. We kind of took it slow that morning, but we were still able to kind of take advantage of the early entry. So after we had our coffee and our breakfast, we did, I guess, take advantage of early entry, and we got on Pooh at 8:25. So my older son really likes Pooh, so that was just what we did. I didn't really feel like fighting the crowds to be on like Peter Pan or any of those things. And also, I think like we were still kind of even, like behind the main mass of people. So a bunch of people had already gotten on it anyway. So Pooh was great. We didn't wait long, probably like 7 minutes. Rode that.
I do have a question for you. The
Yeah.
queue for Winnie the Pooh. Do your children touch everything?
They probably wanted to, but I think we kind of just like did like a little bit of a shield and an eye shield and just walked to get past it because I saw those like all that little play area too. And I'm like, they're going to want to stop and do that without understanding that like, if you don't want to wait, which I know you don't, we got to get on this ride now.
Yeah, in theory, it's fun because it's like, well, if you are standing there, there's something to do. But getting them to go in the line can be so difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, yeah, they're both still like, small enough too that we can kind of just pick them up and move them and they don't complain too much about that. So after Pooh, we went on Small World and Carrie loved it. My younger Sid was not a big fan. He, throughout the trip, and this was kind of the first indication of it, he was not really a big fan of like the animatronics, like anything that was like not real but moved. He was like definitely had like that is Uncanny Valley. I don't like it.
Uncanny Valley is the perfect term.
Yeah. So even Small World, which like seems so, like probably one of the most kid-friendly things when you think about it, like on the face of it. But we kind of just like held him tight and he saw like some things that he liked that were like, okay, but like I was looking over at him throughout the ride and sometimes his face was just like, ah, but he never like had like completely cried or anything like that. It was just like, he was definitely very apprehensive about it. So,
he's your hard of hearing child,
yes,
right?
yes.
I do wonder how much audio plays into setting the tone.
Yes, I thought about that too. And also that he may have been like overstimulated with like how much noise and things. So he has unilateral hearing loss. And one of the things about that is that it can affect children can have trouble like figuring out where sounds are coming from. So yeah, I wondered if that was also part of it. I don't know exactly how he was experiencing it.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing and it seems like it would be hard to predict.
Yeah. And I mean, we've definitely found that the common element was like he was a little freaked out by the animatronics. So we were able to kind of strategize going forward.
There's unfortunately a lot of animatronics.
Yeah. Yeah. Live shows, though, he was a big fan. And there was a lot of that this day that we'll get into. So after Small World, we had a little bit of time because our first thing that we had to make it to was like our first timed event was that 9:45 arrival for the Jungle Cruise ride. So we did have time to ride the carousel. My older likes the carousel, but he likes sitting on the bench. He doesn't like riding the horses. So we just went on the carousel and he rode the bench and he loved it. And then at that point, we were like right outside the princess meet and greet. So, and Carrie loves Tiana. So it said a 10-minute wait. Got in line, but we're already like had been waiting in like the main area for about like almost 10 to 15 minutes. And so at that point, I'm like, if they don't let us in with the next group, I think we're going to have to bail. So we did end up bailing out of that line, which was a little bit disappointing because I know that he wanted to see Tiana, but we do get to see her later in the week at 1900 Park Fair. So I didn't feel too bad about it. It was just that we were cutting it close on time, and I would rather have the peace of mind of knowing we were arriving at our thing on time than like, trying to rush an experience because we were trying to get out of there instead of, really soaking it in. So we ended up bailing on that. And then by 9:40, we made it over to Jungle Cruise. So how this one worked is basically, I think I talked about in the pre-trip. I don't know if I explained it quite well enough, but essentially there's like set days that the interpretations take place. So Hollywood Studios is Sundays and Wednesdays. Magic Kingdom happens to be Mondays and Thursdays. And on that day, there's one Jungle Cruise ride, like time that you can take a ride with the interpreter. So yeah, they ask you to arrive at least 15 minutes in advance, and it says proceed to the wheelchair entrance exit to the left of the standard queue and meet the interpreter. So basically, for every single experience that we did with the interpreter, I would just find a nearby cast member or talk to the cast member at the front of the line and say, hey, we're here for the ASL performance or we're here for the interpreter. And they would either usually point me where to go or tell me to go to the next cast member at the front of the line, and then they would help us. And that like all worked out as planned. So they basically just told us go wait over here by like the wheelchair entrance exit for the interpreter. So we waited there about, I think like 15, 20 minutes. At I was waiting with Sid, and then my husband took Carrie to go through the treehouse, the Swiss Family treehouse, just while we were killing time waiting for the interpreter. And then they were back in time for about 10 o'clock, which is what it says on the schedule. We met the interpreter. His name was Brian. He was wonderful. And I tried to write down for all the days, all the interpreters that we had and yeah, go ahead.
Is it the same interpreter all day?
Yes. So that's what I was just going to get to. It seems like how it works out is they have one or two. So for Magic Kingdom, there's two because there's two interpreters for the shows and the parade. There's the same interpreters on schedule for the whole day. So what was really nice about that was like the interpreter usually comes out and before the Jungle Cruise, he came out and we were kind of just chatting and he was just waiting, I think, for basically they think they just wait until the cast members that are manning the ride are able to tell us like which boat we're going to get on. So it's kind of up to them which one we got on. But then they kind of ask you about your day, like, oh, are you planning to go to this? And I think I don't really almost want to know more of the behind the scenes because it does feel like that magical like cast member experience. But I think that they must communicate with the other interpreters and other cast members and say, hey, there's a family here that's like using the interpreters today. Like probably told them a little bit like, oh, it's a mom and dad and two young kids. Like just look for them at the next experience so that they were able to like then throughout the day, the same interpreters would come out, they would chat with us and then they kind of knew that we were going to be there, which was nice.
So once you meet one, then it feels like you're kind of in with them then during your trip.
Yeah, exactly. And that was really nice. And there were different ones for the different days. So yeah, on this day it was Brian and Shannon was the other interpreter that we met and they were both great.
And are you the only family on this boat ride or are there others?
So we happened to be the only one. While we were waiting, he was kind of like, we'll just wait for a little bit longer and see if anybody else shows up. And on this particular day, nobody did. So how that works then is once it was like our boat, we went through the wheelchair entrance and the interpreter sat on the far side of the boat facing us. And then we sat on like the near side on the bench so that obviously we had eye line and he had eye line to Sid. Oh, and the other thing I will say that was so wonderful that I loved was he told us while we were waiting for the boat, he's like, well, when I have a younger audience, usually what I do is I won't interpret every word that the skipper is saying. I will interpret like to the age level. So instead of interpreting every single, joke and exactly like what she was saying, he was kind of pointing out like, look at the snake. Like, do you see the tiger? And then here and there would interpret some of the jokes. And that worked out perfectly. Sydney was looking at him, watching him, and Sydney loves animals and definitely knows a lot of animal signs. So that was really fun to be able to do that with him. And that worked out so great. And I love that they could kind of like personalize the experience. For the Jungle Cruise in particular, it was just a unique experience in that way.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, because I could see going either way. Like, is the role of an interpreter to be literal? Because your older child, for instance, is hearing that version.
Right.
Or does it make sense to cater it to them to use the language that they know? Like, I could see that going either way.
Yeah. And I think it depends on, for this, obviously, if there had been other people there, I'm sure that he probably would have interpreted it more literally if there were other deaf or hard of hearing adults, for their purposes. But this was just happened to be like a unique experience that we were able to take part in. So that was really cool.
It is cool. And I'm sure, easier for him to understand.
Yeah, exactly. And they were kind of like, they were going back and forth. Like he was kind of like, just like showing him some signs that he knew. And it was just very sweet, him chatting with him.
Mm-hmm.
So after our boat ride, we went back to Main Street because we were kind of wanted to be in the area for the start of the Mickey's Magical Friendship Fair.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see.
Which is the stage show on the castle in the daytime, if anyone skips it like we do a lot.
Yeah.
It's just, I never remember. I just always see things happening. I'm like, oh, there we go.
Yeah, that was a funny thing about this day, now that you mention it, is like every single time for the rest of the day that we passed back through the hub area, the show was going on. I don't know what it was with our timing, but it was like every single time we passed back, it was going on. So
to me, it's just like a park ambiance.
Yeah.
Like, there are some characters dancing, singing. Maybe there'll be a little firework thing at the end.
Exactly. So we went back to Main Street and we were able to catch the Dapper Dans, which is like probably my all-time favorite Disney World thing. Like any park, I just love the Dapper Dans. So I do wish, like, they usually do the show, or at least last few times I've seen them, they ride the trolley up and down, which helps more people to see them. But then it's kind of like, if you want to watch them, you're like chasing the trolley around the whole hub area. So we kind of just like, I kind of just parked the stroller and we kind of watched them and then walked a little bit down to see them come back around. But I mean, I've seen them a lot and I will see them again. So I didn't like hound them the whole way down. But it's just nice to see them because for me, it doesn't feel like a Disney trip is complete unless I get to see the Dapper Dan. So, we mobile ordered some Casey's Corner at that point. We just got some corn dog nuggets. They do have a veggie dog for me, which was great. And then we kind of just sat and ate that. There was like seating available. So sat there and ate a little bit of lunch. And then at that point, we did go and get in our spot for the Magical Friendship Fair, another thing where they kind of recommend you arrive there a little bit early. So there was still like plenty of space available. So I was able to just push the stroller all the way up to the interpreter stand on like a platform right at the bottom of the stage. So we were like very close where it's like you maybe don't have the best view of the show, like to be able to see all the stuff behind, but obviously you have the view of the interpreters there. So at that point, Carrie, my older, was freaking out a little bit because he does not really like the fireworks and loud noises. So my husband took him to just hang out in the grass, and he has like the little sound blocking headphones. So he was happier to do that. But Sid and I stayed. He just hung out in the stroller. And the interpreters again kind of came out and kind of just like saw who was there. And there were some other deaf people that were hanging out there. And so we were chatting a little bit. One of the ladies was signing with Sid and was asking him to come sit in her lap. And he understood sit and then like just sat on the ground. But he was kind of like just filling them out. And we were chatting. So that was fun.
I hadn't considered the community aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, that was definitely really cool. I hope that we would see them again later. We didn't happen to see them later on at the parade or anything, but that was really fun. They saw me signing with Sydney. And so then they just asked me like, oh, are you deaf? And then we just got to chatting. So that was really fun. And there were, I think like 3 or 4 other people there that were like there to watch the interpreters that were signers. So that was really fun. Watched the show. Sydney loved it. He was like super engaged. Like I kind of try to watch him just because out of my own curiosity, like he kind of, for this show at least, like he was kind of switching back and forth between watching the interpreters and watching the show and looking at the characters. So that was really fun. And I had a really like enjoyable experience just like hanging out with him there and experiencing that with him. That was really nice.
I assume that's a common thing to switch between so that you can kind of take in the visuals as well as try to understand.
Yes. Yeah. And I was always just curious about how much he was, what he was focusing on. I was just curious about it. And also for a little toddler, like he's going to be like, as the trip went on and depending on the show, he was sometimes more interested in just watching like the colors and the movement and all of that stuff. But I'm always just curious, just for my own knowledge of him and his experience. So that was great. After that, we went to the Storybook Circus area. I think we were planning on getting Sydney to sleep at some point again in the stroller. So we did have some time before like our next thing. And so our plan was we got in line to meet Daisy and Minnie, but my older was having a little bit of a tough time with that. So my husband and Sydney stayed in the line and did meet Minnie and Daisy. Carrie and I bailed again on another character line. And we did they had cast members handing out like the Smellephant scavenger hunt thing at the front of Storybook Circus. So we had that in hand and he and I just walked around and did that while they finished up with the character meet and greet. And that worked out fine. After that, so this happened quite a bit during the trip and it's something we do at home also. Like we each took one kid and kind of split up to do different things. So Colin took Sid to get him to fall asleep in the stroller, which he did. And then Carrie and I went to the Tomorrowland Speedway, which I don't think I've ever ridden before. And I know controversial because it's like kids love it, adults hate it. I feel like I can kind of like concur on that. I mean, it was very fun for Carrie to do that. And it was fun just for me to have a new experience of something that like I've seen and passed so many times every time I go to Disney, but he did have fun with it. And so I was just happy to like indulge him on that.
It's one of those things like, as you said, kids tend to like it, the adults don't. But if you don't go on it, a lot of times your kids will bother you so much because it takes up so much real estate.
Yes. And I will say, like, that brings up a good point of people who have toddlers at Disney or, preschoolers, young kids who don't understand the concept of like, you can't just see something and just go on it. It's like, you don't
Uh-huh.
understand that, like, number one, it might not be in our plan. And like, especially
Mhm.
for me, because it's like, okay, well, I planned this stuff out so that we could specifically hit certain things. And also trying to explain, like, yeah, I know that you see that and want to go on it, but that's like a 40-minute wait or whatever. And I know you don't want to do that. So we did have a
Mhm.
little bit of that, like no huge battles, but just kind of had to explain to Carrie a couple times, like, yeah, I know you want to go on that. That's not in the plan. And there will be a long wait for it. And I know that you don't want to wait. And he kind of usually like accepted that and was okay.
Mhm.
So after that, we met up in Adventureland and got some Dole Whip. We shared two. I like to do the pineapple and coconut swirl.
Mm.
So that's what we did. And that was a nice little treat. We found like a shady spot to sit in. Sydney was still sleeping and Carrie got to have his treat. He definitely has a sweet tooth like his dad and loves a treat. So
Mhm.
that worked out great. And I also like that particular treat as well. So at that point, we were kind of just waiting to go over to the parade. So that was about like 1:30ish. We were kind of just like biding our time before we went over again to get there a little bit early. So we finished up our treat and then walked to the viewing area for the parade. So we got there about 1:45, and the viewing area for the interpreters, it's in basically right next to the Liberty Bell in Liberty Square. Is that what it's called?
Mhm.
So they have like the interpreters stand on a platform that's like in the middle by that flagpole. And then they have a very small, like really small, narrow, taped off area for people to stand if you're there to watch the interpreters. So I kind of had the stroller parked like in one of those, like on the brick area by like the flagpole Liberty Bell area. And I kind of kept it there. Sydney was still sleeping and he woke up like right before the parade started. And at that point, there was no one else standing in the area. So I was actually able, the cast member, like let me push the stroller right into the viewing area. And Carrie and Colin went off to use the bathroom and came back in time for the parade to start. So yeah, Sid woke up right in time for the parade and it was another wonderful experience. Like Sydney loved it. And I think it was helped that there was some distance, number one, and that it was all mostly, like face characters and live people and not animatronics. So he really loved that. Particularly, I had written down like when he saw the seven dwarves go by, he like whipped around and was just watching them. So that was one, like, no idea that he liked that or that he had like a penchant for it. But the interpreters even noted that, like, they came to chat to us before and after. And she was like, I was watching him and he, like, when the seven dwarves went by, like, he loved it. So that was really fun because they're kind of watching us during and watching his reaction
Mhm.
during like the parade and during the interpretation. And then just two other fun things that happened during the parade. I was kind of standing like crouching next to the stroller. So the parade goes by like on my right side. So there was stuff like going on over here that I wasn't necessarily always aware of because I was kind of watching Sid, watching the interpreters, and they were going by on the right. At one point, I did like pick him up and was holding him so he could get like a better view. And Goofy came over and just like wrapped us in a bear hug, which was so
Mhm.
funny and like so unexpected. And I don't think Sydney really noticed, which I was happy because I think that if he would have been fully aware, he might have freaked out a little bit, but he was like mesmerized by everything that was going on. And then Alice also came over at one point and kind of crouched down and signed, "Nice to meet you," which was really sweet. And I think that's an advantage of being in that area. They know that
Mhm.
that you're there for a specific purpose. So that was a really like nice, felt like that like Disney magic little like personal touch.
Yeah, I that is really sweet. Do you know the extent that the cast members like, is it just that if they happen to know how to sign, then they're allowed to or encouraged to?
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know specifically, and I did ask the interpreter some questions later on about like how they like who develops the interpretations and like are they allowed to have like some creative freedom? And the answer to that, just on that point for the interpreters, was they have like a lead choreographer that does like develops the interpretations for like the scripted, obviously the
Uh-huh.
scripted events. And then, but they did say that they did have some like creative freedom, obviously, as long as like it makes sense. And I think they probably have to follow like some other parameters because obviously there were things like later on, we went to Turtle Talk with Crush on our Animal Kingdom Day. And obviously that's like a live audience. So there's not a pre-scripted thing for that. And they're just interpreting on the spot. So, but yeah, as to the characters, I'm sure that there are some that maybe they just take it upon themselves to do that. But I'm not sure how much it's like built into like, yeah, their
training.
perform. Yeah. I would be curious if I ever get the chance to ask somebody about that. I totally will, because I'm definitely curious about that as
Yes,
well.
I would love that too. And you use the term choreographer. So instead of interpreter?
That's the term that the interpreter used.
Uh-huh.
So, and I think that, like, to me, that rings true for some of the things, because for some of the shows, because they're also an element of the show, you
Right.
know?
No, but I love that because that, to me, they feel like performers.
Right. And this was just like one note that I mentioned to them, and they said that this was something the choreographer, like, it was part of the script that the choreographer had come up with, but this is just skipping a little bit ahead. But when we went to see the Encanto show at Epcot, they show parts of like the movie, and so they're interpreting the songs. And there's a part in I forget the name of the sister, but the
Louisa?
Mirabelle, the other one.
Oh, yes.
Isabel.
Sure, yeah.
There's one part during the song where, she's naming all these different plants, and one of the plants is the strangling fig. So the way that they interpreted that, or in the interpretation choreography, was she fingerspelled strangling, but in the shape of the fig, going down in the shape of the plant. And I saw that I was also watching the interpreters to learn more. And I just thought that was a really cool way to interpret that, instead of just spelling it or just showing a plant, or even just signing like plant. They actually spelled it out as they were forming the shape of the plant. And I just thought that was so cool.
It is. And a choreography.
Yes. Yeah. And it is an art as well.
It is 100%. It's not, I know like some schools, for instance, will give you like a foreign language or sign language. But to me, sign language is so much more of a performance.
Yeah. And especially when you are interpreting a song, that often a lot of those things don't have a literal interpretation, because they are very like metaphorical. And I think that there's definitely like a huge range. Like, I don't want to speak as if I'm not an expert on interpreting, because I am not, and I'm not an interpreter, but there's definitely a range of interpretations that you can do. So I think that's really cool. That, again, would love to like sit down with that choreographer and talk to them about their whole process. Like, someone needs to do that interview with whoever that cast member is.
Yeah. And just, it's a whole subculture all on its own. So very interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So I think I got just as much out of it as Sydney did. All right. So after that, so that was the parade. Wonderful. After that, we did have a individual lightning lanes to go on Tron. So at this point, we split up again. I went first. This was like 2:45. I went first. I've been on Tron once before, but I still had some issues this time around, because I just forgot to get the card, because we didn't have Magic Bands, so I forgot to get like the card for the lockers. And then also, I guess I thought that I knew what I was doing, and I wasn't watching like the videos where they show you like how to get on the vehicle and all that stuff. So I ended up in line with just this other nice lady, and I forgot that you were allowed to walk around, and that you're supposed to walk around the back of the bike, because it looks like you're not supposed to walk across the track. So I asked her to like step over and go on the farther one. And then the cast member kind of just like gently reminded me, like, we don't want anyone to fall and get hurt, so next time just walk around. So I was able to tell my husband, I'm like, okay, make sure you get your card. Don't walk over the bike. And I also had trouble getting off. Like, I was having trouble just opening my locker. So I had to also ask a cast member about that, and felt like a total just like Disney novice, which I'm not, but it just had that feeling of like, okay, you have been humbled now. Just, yeah, pay it. Actually watch the ride video, even if you think you know what you're doing.
Yes. That one's a tricky one. Lots of chances to not follow the correct route.
Yeah. So, but I did have fun on it. It was great. I finished about a half an hour later, and then Colin met me in Tomorrowland. He had gone with the boys to get a snack. So we kind of were just eating our snack a little bit. I quickly mobile ordered some milk from Cosmic Rays, because that was just like the closest thing to us. So I just ran and got the boys some milk. A really sweet cast member there that also gave us like a little extra clementine, which my boys love. So that was just really sweet. So Colin went to ride Tron, and then I was kind of deciding what to do with the boys. And Unfortunately for Sydney, Big Brother got his way and we went to ride Small World again because Carrie wanted to. So I did just hold him really tight and we had a good time on it. It was like at one point, so you get on the boat and Sydney, when he didn't like something, he would just say no and he would kind of start like pointing to the exit, which did happen a couple times with some things. We got in the boat and got like, it kind of like goes up a little bit and like locks into place underneath like the cast member that's up in the little like overpass. And the boat stopped. We'd been on it, 5 seconds and Sydney goes, "No, all done." And wanted to get off. And I'm like, "Oh no, we just started." But he did have an okay time. He got through it and Carrie enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, I won't force you to go on anything else. Like we just had to do this one thing. So that worked out well. And I was also like proud of myself just taking both kids, got onto a boat, went okay, and got off the boat all in one piece. So that was good. At the end, yeah, so then we got off of Small World, and then that was about 30 minutes later. So that whole process, took about like 30 minutes. Met back up with Colin, and at that point, we just decided we were about ready to head out of the park. So we took some pictures. We took a couple by like the big Christmas tree on our way out, and then went to the bus stop. We waited for about 15 minutes for the bus. Got on the bus at 5:40. Again, arrived exactly 20 minutes later, pretty much at 6 o'clock. And then we just headed to the food court for just like a quick dinner. Had dinner, went back to our room about 7. We had a little bit of our cupcake from the night before, took baths. And then again, everyone was in bed or sleeping between like 7:30 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really good day.
So it sounds like you found your routine for this trip.
Yeah. And we were definitely in bed like earlier than I thought. I think like originally my plan was maybe that, the kids are going to go to bed and I was going to head back out to Disney Springs to do some shopping. That never happened. I was way more exhausted than I thought I would be in a good way. But yeah, I was just too dang tired to try going out again. And also having been there like the night before and knowing that it was a 20-minute boat ride and then, fighting all the crowds or whatever, and then 20-minute boat ride back, I'm like, I don't think I can do it. And I'd rather preserve my energy for the following day.
But also, you had been up since 4:15 accidentally.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first, there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
So the next day was Friday, November 14th, and you had plans at Epcot.
Yes, we did. And I will say both Magic Kingdom and this Epcot day pretty much like almost followed my itinerary to a T, which was just kind of fun. I don't always like need it to be that way, but it just so happened that it did work out really well.
Mm-hmm.
So that day, we were up about 6 o'clock, got ready, and then left the room about 7:20. So got on the bus I have at 7:48 and then arrived at Epcot at 8:03. So I think it looks like we waited a little bit longer for the bus that day. But again, pretty much like exactly a almost 20-minute ride to get to Epcot. So they were already letting people in at about 8:15. And my husband was kind of curious about because we did have time, he was kind of curious about wait times for stuff. So we kind of walked around and surveyed the wait times, but I kind of knew that it wasn't going to work out to get on Test Track or Guardians or anything else. So we didn't push it. And instead we just got coffee and a donut. And I have put here in my notes what may be in Epcot first. We basically rope dropped the playground, which was fun. So we went and played on the playground for probably 20, 25 minutes with our coffee and donut. And I got some really cute pictures of the kids playing on the empty playground and they loved it. Would highly recommend if you're a parent, you're there early and you're not itching to get on anything. The playground was wide open. It was a beautiful day. So that was a really nice start to the day. So after, about 20 minutes, we left the playground because our plan was to go meet Pooh in the England pavilion. So we walked to England and we were kind of just waiting around there we didn't really know. I have not met Pooh back there before, so I didn't know where the entrance is, but it's at the very back of the garden. There's a little, I don't know what it's called, but a little walkway. What are those things called? Just I forget what they're called, but it's like a little walkway thing in the very back corner there. And I thought we were going to be like the only people there. Other people showed up and like were actually in line before us because there were other people there that were super eager to meet Pooh as well. So that was fun. We were just kind of playing in the garden. Carrie collected a bunch of acorns that he found back there and filled his pockets. And we also, while we were back there, we saw Alice with like just kind of hanging out. And I noticed this happened a lot during this trip. Like they must have increased these like random character appearances because we saw this quite a bit throughout the trip. So like Alice, or when we were in Magic Kingdom at one point, I think we saw Captain Hook kind of just like walking around. So it's very casual, but I liked it because it's kind of like, again, that little extra like spontaneous appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So about 9:05, we were let in to see Pooh. The kids liked it. Sid was a little bit apprehensive, but we got some cute pictures. Carrie was into it. I just love that setting. It's just like very sweet, like little bedroom set. And I really liked that. So I got our pictures with Pooh. And then as we were leaving, like back in the store, Sydney turned around after the door was already closed and we were far out of earshot. But then he just said, "Bye, Bear." So that was really cute. So we did have a timed event that we were trying to get to at that point. And the timing worked out perfectly. About 9:25, we were walking over to the Seas because we were trying to get there at the time for the 9:40 Turtle Talk show. So we walked to the Seas and then we just, again, checked in with the cast member and told them what we were here for. And then they said, "Oh yeah, that'll be the next show." Didn't have any issues. We're just hanging out looking at the animals in like the little like holding area there. And then got into Turtle Talk with Crush. This day, the interpreter that was there, her name was Amy, and she was wonderful. Also was able to chat with her a little bit. We were kind of just like chatting across the room, which was fun. And this, I would say, like just so happened that this show, there were just not a lot of people that wanted to ask questions. So there wasn't actually like a lot of audience interaction in this particular show. And there was also happened to be like, I think the cast member that was manning the microphone was still earning her ears, and they were having a little bit of sound issues with like getting the microphone close enough to people's mouths so that Crush could actually hear them. But I just loved the interpreter. Was great. It was fun chatting with her. And she also was just so fun to watch the interpretation because she was kind of like, basically like embodying Crush in her interpretation. And this was a fun thing for this day too that I caught a couple things throughout the trip is learning the sign names of some of the characters. So in deaf culture, obviously, so that you don't have to fingerspell people's names every time, it's traditionally a deaf person will assign you a sign name. So Sydney does not have a sign name yet. I'm hoping that he will get one someday, but he doesn't have one yet. But the Disney characters, I'm sure that the choreographers or someone comes up with them, but Crush's sign name is like a C on a hand. So that was really fun to learn some of those things. I wish that they would release like a video or like a, their like official names. And I learned some of the other ones of the characters just as we were watching the shows, but I thought that was fun.
And will Sydney get his own sign based on he'll get to choose it?
Usually it's kind of based on like a characteristic or like personality trait of the person. And sometimes, at least ones that I've seen, oftentimes is like the first letter of someone's name, and then related to a characteristic about them. And I know like later on the Encanto show, like Mirabelle's name sign, or at least how they referred to her in their songs, was hers was a butterfly, and Bruno's was like putting up a hood. So that was those characters' sign names. And I did also ask like the interpreters if they had sign names. Like Amy's sign name was an A hand shape, like next to her cheek. And from the day before, Brian's was like this, like twirling a mustache because he had a curly mustache. So that was fun. Yeah, after the show, again, chatted with Amy and told her, "Oh yeah, we're planning on going to the Encanto show later." And so then we also got to see her later that day, which was fun. We just checked out the aquarium after that, kind of looked at the animals. Like that aquarium is just so amazing, especially if you like don't have anything like near that where you live. It might be like one of the biggest and, most, I guess, like magnificent aquariums that you can see. And it's very cool to have that like 360 surrounded view. So always like to check that out. We did have a reservation this day for Garden Grill. So our reservation was at 10:25, and so we headed over about like 10:15. I was hoping we were maybe going to get seated a little bit early. We didn't. we checked in about 10:20 and then we're seated like 20 minutes later. So we did have to wait a little bit. Waiting was fine. While we waited, Carrie counted all the acorns in his pockets and he had 35 acorns.
He
So
can count to 35.
yeah, so that was fun. And so yeah, we got seated about 10:40. It was a really good meal. I will say, like, a lot of times with these character meals, like, we eat fast in general, and also like the kids won't sit for that long anyway, so it works out okay. But I think they do sometimes feel a little bit rushed. And I think also because our particular reservation time was like right before the changeover to lunch. It did feel a little bit rushed. Like the server would kind of come over and it would be like, "Do you need anything? Okay, here you go. Like, I'll be back later." Again, was fine because we weren't going to be able to sit that long anyway. But we ate. It took us about like an hour to eat and see all the characters. The food was amazing. I just love Disney breakfast. Like, I just love the combo. At Garden Grill, they bring like a skillet of everything. And so for me, since I'm vegetarian, they had like a plant-based skillet, and then they had brought like the regular one, and the kids and my husband nibbled off that. I basically ate the veggie skillet. I ate everything in it all by myself. Like, we were hungry at that point, and it was just so good.
I think sometimes people with special diets are afraid of family style restaurants, but it's actually better because they give you your own thing.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously my dietary restriction is not like life threatening in any way. So I can see that if you had an allergy or like there would be greater consequences, like you could be more concerned about that. But yeah, I really like that, like this style, the family style of eating with like the skillets. And also then like if my husband wants to have some of mine or, because I'm not vegan, so I could eat, like the eggs or whatever extra stuff off their plate, just not the meat, then I had the freedom to do that. Really cute character interaction. I told Carrie, "Oh, you should give Chip and Dale some of your acorns." So he had like the little acorn sitting out on the table. Dale came over and we were, he was interacting with him, and then he gave him the acorn and he ate it. And Carrie just thought that was like the greatest thing. It was really, really cute. So that will be like a memory that I will hold on to from that trip. And I got some really cute pictures of him with Dale, but I'll just always remember it because I thought it was so funny that he was collecting all the acorns and had like pockets full of them, and then that they kind of came into use later on and got to feed the chipmunks. So
that's adorable. Also, his pockets must be huge for 35 acorns. Is he wearing cargo pants? What's he doing?
Yeah, some deep pockets. And it was so funny because we were counting them and I had no idea how many he had. And he just kept pulling them out and pulling them out and pulling them out. And so highly recommend, if you need something to entertain your child, go to the England Pavilion and collect some acorns.
And then go Garden Grill so you can give them different them.
Exactly. So yes, our meal there was really great. I had been wanting to eat there for a long time because I also love living with the land. So it was really fun to kind of see how it incorporates into like the living with the land, like scenery ride. But the restaurant rotates very, very slowly. So like we were there an hour and I think we probably only rotated like 25% of the way, if that. But yeah, I would highly recommend that as well because I really liked that. Garden Grill was very fun. So yeah, it took us about an hour to eat, like I said, and we finished up about like 11:15. And so then that was pretty perfect timing because the Encanto show was set to start at 11:45 with a recommendation to arrive at 11:30. So at that point, we split up again. We had passed earlier, like that other, like the Bramblewood, I think it's called the Bramblewood play area. And Carrie saw that and he was asking to go to it. So Colin took him to go play there. And then Sid and I just went and posted up at the Encanto show. So we had that same interpreter from earlier, Amy, and then another interpreter, Damar, that was there. So I think for almost all the shows, if I remember correctly, they usually have one female and one male interpreter, and so that they can kind of switch roles and that they can play the different roles, which is fun. So we watched that show, another one. Sydney really loved it, like having like the live performers combined with like the little snippets from the movie, which he hasn't seen, but I mean, it's lights, colors, fun stuff. He really liked that. And then, yeah, like I said, I was just really having a fun time watching their interpretations and just kind of seeing how they choreographed the interpretations. And I was learning a lot from that. So the show finished up about 12:10. So yeah, it's like almost like a full 30-minute show. And at that point, we had in our plan to go back to the hotel to take like a midday break because we had been out the whole day before. So we did do that. We headed to the bus, got on about 12:18, And this particular bus we had all to ourselves, which is always just kind of a fun novelty, especially for the kids. At this point, Carrie decided that he picked his favorite seat on the bus. So he loved sitting in the back next to the window. So he always asked like, oh, can I pick my seat? So on this one, we got to say yes. And he got to pick his seat on the bus, which he had fun with. Again, I think it was about another like 20-minute-ish ride. Back to the room to watch some cartoons and take a nap. Carrie and I fell asleep on the bed together about like 1:30-ish. And weirdly enough, the one day we went back to have like a full nap, Sydney just wanted nothing to do with it in the pack and play. So Colin actually ended up taking him back out to sleep in the stroller. So he went and just walked around Port Orleans. And I think that he might have also walked back over to French Quarter just to like see what was going on and just to take a long walk. And Sydney did fall asleep in the stroller. Oh yeah, I think Colin went and got a beer at French Quarter and just got to kind of soak in the vibes while Sydney was sleeping. So they got back to the room about 3. So Carrie had like a pretty solid nap and I slept a little bit. And then I think I got up and probably just like puttered around the room and was kind of getting stuff ready again. We left the room about 3:30, got back on the bus. And this was one of a few experiences we had. We just happened to have like a lot of really nice conversations with other people on the bus. So I think I'm remembering this one correctly. When we got on, there was another couple. There was like an older couple that was on the bus already. And I kind of saw them like pointing at Sydney's hearing aid. And then they were kind of talking to us and they just said like, oh yeah, our son, he's deaf. He has bilateral hearing aids. And so they were just kind of telling us a little bit about him. And we got to talking. They were only on for a couple stops. And I wish I would have like, I don't know, just like said something else, but it was just like such a really like pleasant interaction. And just like always nice hearing from parents who just knowing about parents' experiences, how, because their son is an adult now, just like what in this short time that we had to talk, just hearing about their experience and their son's experience was just like really heartwarming. And then we were also sitting next to another family, a mom and like 3 youngish kids. And we were talking and she was saying like, oh, like, do you guys sign? And she's like, I learned a little bit in school. And so she was kind of showing her kids like finger spelling. And we just had like a really like, I love talking to people who are like just genuinely curious and kind and just want to know more. And I'm so happy to talk to people about that and at least share from our perspective. Again, not an expert and only know my experience and my son's experience, but they were just so lovely. And it just made the bus ride that extra, little bit more happy.
I love that.
So that was really fun. So after that, got to Epcot about 4:00. And at this point, our goal was to do KitKat. So we started in Canada. Controversial. I start in Canada. That's just what I do. And I love the Canada show. So another one of my weird just things that I just love. And I just love that Canada song. Never been to Canada. Always want to go every single time we see that show. So maybe sometime soon. But yeah, we picked up our KitKat things and we just got like the little folder and we were just collecting the postcards. We didn't buy the passport because that's like an extra purchase, but we just wanted to do the drawings and all that. So yeah, did the Canada show. And then we were kind of just making our way around World Showcase and we're planning that was kind of going to be our dinner. So we did just get some bits and bobs here and there. I got like a full thing of food in Morocco. And in particular, just to point out that food was really good. They had like a falafel wrap and it was like full size. And I don't think that expensive. And it was really, really good. So I enjoyed that. So we were trying to make our way around. And this was it was a Friday night. So at that point, it was starting to get pretty crowded. I knew that was going to be the case, but it did still kind of surprise me how crowded it was. And then obviously when it gets dark, that just kind of adds another element of like chaos to the whole thing. This is just how it worked out because Epcot was our day today and we were limited by the one park ticket and that we were there for the interpretations on that day. But I think in the future, if I had my pick of parks and plans, I would try to avoid going to Epcot on a Friday or Saturday night because it is just start to get really wild. So at that point, I think this brought us to about like, we're in like the 6:00 area. It is like getting dark and we were just trying to again, speed running the KitKat stops. And one thing I will say is like, I did not realize like KitKat is very popular and not just with kids. So we got to some of the stops and there was a line of like 10 people waiting to get their passports filled out. So we were just there for the postcards. So at a certain point, I kind of just started like sneaking my way up to the front and just like plucking the postcard if I could see it, just so that we could get it and get out of there, because the cast members do these like elaborate drawings and all this stuff, but it takes some time. So we did manage to get all of our postcards. And then my husband was like, we're in now, like we're getting these postcards. And so then they got their final prize at the end. And it was like another postcard thing that's like, congratulations, you're a world traveler. So that was kind of funny, but still a fun little experience. And I think maybe next time we would even try to get the passports and just prioritize going during the day so we could actually linger and take our time through the World Showcase.
Yep. I beware of the people with the shirts too.
Mm.
They wear
so many of them.
the shirts. And listen, I love a drink, but when you start acting crazy in public like that,
yeah, it's a lot. And I love the World Showcase. Like probably one of my like descriptions of an ideal day is just like a morning / early afternoon in Epcot, wandering through the World Showcase, taking your time, looking at stuff, grazing on food. Didn't happen to be what worked out this trip, but in the future, yeah, with the pick of days, would definitely avoid World Showcase on a Friday or Saturday night. And because it was, I think, like the second to last week of Food and Wine, that might have added to it.
Yeah, and like you said, you had your day sort of chosen for you based on ASL availability. I guess the only thing that would have been helpful is park hopper tickets.
Yes, and I think that would be something I would do differently next time too, is I would have like planned it so that we did 2 mornings in Epcot and did our nights somewhere else if it had to be on a Friday or Saturday. So
lesson learned.
Yep.
Now you'll know how you'll do it next time.
Yeah. So we finished up in World Showcase about 6:45, and then we were kind of just like looking for something to do. So we just hopped on Figment because it was there. My son had seen like the big pyramid thing. We went on that, and I'm like no huge Figment fan, but it's, something to do, a fun little like nostalgia trip, I suppose. I have written here just like a funny little quote. Of course, Sydney, not really also the biggest fan of Figment. Carrie kind of liked it, but at one point, Carrie looked over and went, "Sydney is terrified," because he just saw the look on his face. So that was just kind of comical. And I kind of forgot. I've only been on that ride a couple times, and I kind of forgot some of like the jumps in there. And there's like the part where like the air gets sprayed on you. So that spooked Carrie a little bit, but he was overall really good about just like being prepared for things. And he was pretty much wearing his headphones, I think, on almost all the rides too, just to like help blunt against any sudden noise.
Just in case.
Yeah, exactly. So that was good, besides Sydney being terrified. And he wasn't really that terrified, but it was just a funny quote. We played a little bit in the area at the end, just let the kids again run around. Anywhere where there's space for them to like run around in like a safe environment is always just like let them get the let out for a little bit.
And Epcot has lots of that.
They do. Yeah. And this one, like for it being inside also, I mean, we weren't really dealing with heat because it was late at night, but yeah, a tip for parents if you're looking for somewhere to get out of the sun and somewhere for your kids to run around, that's a good option. So then at this point, when we had our other individual lightning lane for Guardians. So this was about 7:45. We split up to ride Guardians. Colin went first, and then I took the kids to hang out in the Communicore Plaza area. There was a band playing, and it was really great. It was very loud, and we hung out there the whole time. So at the end of it, I was kind of like very overstimulated for all the music, and there was a lot of people. But that was a nice area to hang out. Like it was dark, and they had like bags, like, the game bags, or I don't know, in the Midwest, we call it cornhole sometimes.
Cornhole.
And then they had like the giant Connect 4. So there was stuff for the kids to do as well. And I just let them run around. They were having fun. Carrie was like running laps around other kids and playing the games. It was a pretty good area. Like he knew to stay in like that general area. So I was able to keep an eye on them both. But I was definitely like, it was dark. So I had like my head on a swivel and was just kind of going back between the two of them. And there were also, I will say, like another just like really nice interactions that we had with other people. There was like another like multi-generational family that was hanging out there, and like some of the grandparents were keeping an eye on my kids because they kind of saw that it was like 1 versus 2. So then they were kind of hanging out with Sydney and handing him the little Connect Four pieces to put on or to put in the little slots. So that was nice. And just, yeah, another really good, like, it's nice to have pleasant and uplifting interactions with fellow Disney goers instead of witnessing some of the, poor behavior. And I feel like I'm always on the lookout for that because I don't know, I always just want to like m- make sure and let the cast members know, especially like, we value you guys, like, we care about
Mhm.
you. Thank you for doing what you do. And like, hoping that if there was some sort of, I don't know, like negative interaction that I could like jump in or somehow like, I don't know, de-escalate. I've never really had to do that, but I'm just like always keeping my eye out.
If you would like more of that bad behavior, you can go in the summer and holidays. That's where it
Yeah.
feels most concentrated because people that go during those times don't tend to understand like
Yeah.
crowds and, the planning involved.
Yeah. I will say, just on that note as well, it did seem like, I think maybe it's just the time of year because it is relatively close to the start of school, especially like when we were on the bus. I noticed it that the majority of other travelers, it was a lot of adults and like older kids, if there were kids, but just like a lot of adults or like older couples that were traveling during this time. Not that obviously there weren't kids there, but it seemed to be skewing more in that direction, and especially at
Mhm.
Epcot.
And you were right before Thanksgiving break. So
Yep.
maybe people just aren't traveling as much with their school
Right.
kids.
Right. So yeah, we hung out at that stage area. That was a good. I enjoyed it. Besides being overstimulated towards the end, it took Colin about 30 minutes, I think, all told. And when he came back, I'm like, "What song did you get?" And he got "Everybody Wants to Rule the World," which is his favorite. So
My
I was very happy for him. And then I went to seal my fate with what song I got. So we switched. I went over to Guardians. They were having an issue with the pre-show when I was there. So we waited in that holding area after the Terry Crews introduction. We were in that holding area for I think like 15 plus minutes. And at a certain point, the cast member, because of course you could feel the tension, everyone's starting to think like, is the ride down? Like, and I was in the room, we had the lightning lane, but I was in the room with people that had probably waited over an hour to be in
Mhm.
there. And so at some point the cast member did pop in and she was like, the ride is not down. We're just having an issue with the pre-show. If we can't get it up, we'll just bypass it. And eventually we did end up bypassing the rest of the pre-show. So I've ridden it before, so I kind of knew the story. Obviously, it's a little bit of a letdown, I think, for people who don't get the whole story.
Mhm.
But I would rather skip the pre-show and get on the ride than be told, "Oh, it's down and you're not riding." So, got on the ride, and I got conga. Not, not my favorite. My personal favorite is Iran, but I did get conga. But I made the most of it. I love that ride. Guardians is, I think, my favorite ride at all of Disney World. It's so amazing. And I think the guy that I ended up sitting next to, it was his first time on it. So he was very like, when you're riding single rider, you just get put with whoever. And he was like very stone faced, like didn't say a word when we got on the ride. And then like as soon as it started, he was like laughing, like whooping, hollering, having the greatest time. So I thought that was really funny. And yeah, I just that ride is so great. If you are like a coaster person and can handle the, intensity of it, it's so great.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. And I'd rather ride it and get conga than not ride it at all.
Yes.
So yeah, I finished up about 9, took me a little bit longer because of that delay in the beginning. And then the fireworks were starting. I was thinking before we left, I was like, as I was planning the trip, maybe we'll stay for the fireworks. It was late. Carrie wasn't really going to, tolerate it well anyway. So we were walking out as the fireworks were going on, which is also kind of fun because you can kind of hear and just see them in the distance, but you don't have to be right up close next to them. Got to the bus station about 9:10, and this is the longest we did wait for a bus. It was like one of those situations, which I think has probably happened to everybody at some point on their trip, where you're sitting at the bus station and it's like bus after bus is coming and you're like squinting to see what resort does it say. And
Mhm.
it was just like Coronado Springs, Coronado Springs, Coronado Springs, like Wilderness Lodge. Finally, I think it was like 30 minutes about we waited, and the line was really long at that point. But they must have, and they rammed us on that bus. Like the driver got a little bit like intense about like, everyone go to the very back, like smushing us all on. The kids and I did like get a seat which was good. And then like, I guess usually when we were riding the bus, it was one parent sat with the two kids and the other one stood with the stroller. But the bus rides luckily pretty much went like without issue. Got back at about 10 and then everyone was asleep by 10:20. So it was like a quick turnaround and it was a late night. So we were all like ready to be in bed at that point.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, you had the nap in the afternoon. Most of you did.
Yes, that really helped.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first, there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
Okay. The next day was your last park day, Saturday, November 15th. Animal Kingdom, but also little character breakfast.
Yeah. So we woke up early this day. So Sydney happened to wake up early. He woke up at 5:30, which was just earlier than we would have liked to get started. So because Colin had taken him out the day before, now it was my turn. So I just got him in the stroller and we just went for a very early morning walk. Another like an advantage of being at Port Orleans was like it was a gorgeous early morning walk. Like just kind of taking advantage and being grateful for yes, I'm up early, but I'm at Disney. My kid's now happy in the stroller. We're strolling. And that was also like another just kind of different side of Disney. Like there were people up jogging that path. People like, I think, I'm not sure how early they get the coffee ready, but that was something as I was walking and was like desperate for coffee. And I had the refillable mug, but I didn't bring it with me. And I was like ready to go in and start like begging for some coffee. I passed another man coming. I was like, at that point, I had kind of made a big loop and was going to the main lobby area. And I passed another man and I was like, is the coffee ready yet? And he's like, he had been in there. He's like, I don't think they're not quite up and running yet. So I kind of had to give up on that idea. I did get some coffee eventually, but there were people like up and about. So yeah, I got back at like between like 6 and 6:30, sometime in there, got back to the room. And then everyone else was up, got us all ready. And then today was the day that we took a minivan. I had like kind of had it in the plan for earlier in the week. I was like, maybe we'll do it. And my husband kept being like, we're taking the bus. Let's save the money. So we did do it this time just because it would have been like, multiple transfers or walking to get to the Grand Floridian. So the minivan was a good experience. I will say, like, definitely add into your plan. I think in my head, I thought like minivan will automatically be faster than a bus ride. But if you have kids, remember they need time to install the car seats. And that did take like, 5 to 10 minutes to get, especially the 2 car seats. But my oldest loved that they had cartoons. He loves Spidey and His Amazing Friends, and they were playing that on the TVs in there. So he was enjoying that. And it was just a nice experience. This was the first time I've ever taken a minivan, and I kind of just like wanted to do it also for the experience. And I will say I also wrote down how much that was, and that was $53 ride. So that's including tip. So just so people have an idea, because that was something is you can't necessarily get a good estimate necessarily because it depends on the time and the distance and all of that stuff. I think when I had searched before, it was like average, between $30 and $50. But I think for taking it the one time, I definitely I'm grateful for my husband for saying like, let's just do the bus most of the time because it did work out really well. But it was nice to have the option and especially to get straight to the Grand Floridian. That was a good option for us on this particular day.
Mm-hmm.
So we got seated. I think our reservation was for 8:15 and we were seated at 8:20. So that one worked out. We got seated pretty quickly. The kids were like a little bit wiggly this morning. So we were kind of doing that thing where it's like, take the one kid for like a little bit of a walk and try to, the other parent will stay with the other kid at the table. Another amazing breakfast. Like the food here is great. They have so many options, a lot of plant-based options as well. So it was pretty much just like pile our plates high and just eat as much as we could. And the kids ate, also pretty well. This one we did wait. Like I think we just got there such that the characters had almost just been to our table. So we did have to wait a little bit for them to come around, but then they all come in really quick succession. So Carrie enjoyed that and he loves Tiana. He, of course, like when they come up, then he's like more shy. But I really like this particular mix of characters. It's Mirabelle, Cinderella, Aladdin, and Tiana. And then that she's in her like adventure outfit is really fun. And I think my favorite character here, Aladdin, he was just like, he's super like outgoing and talkative and really fun. And he was telling us stories about Abu. And I just will like particularly remember that character interaction was really fun. And he was just like very gregarious. And I really enjoyed that.
I think these might be some of the best characters at character meals. They're really good performers.
They really are. And it's like it's an interesting mix. It's like that they're not all from the same story or universe. I like that it's like that range. And like, yeah, in contrast to Aladdin, like Cinderella, she's like very sweet and quiet. So yeah, you just get like the variety. And I think that that's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, finished up eating. It took us about an hour. And then, so we had finished and we're just basically waiting for all the characters to come through. And then once we were done with that, we had a little bit of time. And my plan was this was basically like the only time that we were going to get to see any of the other resorts. And we're hoping to see some gingerbread. So this was kind of interesting. What we did is we took the monorail over to the Contemporary and we were hoping to like get some gingerbread at the little shop there. I think this was like the first weekend that it was up and they were actually having like some sort of event there. So they had like the Disney, like a bunch of the chefs out there. And I think one of the chefs or the head baker, whoever, whatever their title is. And I think it was like a group of like chef trainees or maybe interns.
Mm-hmm.
So there was kind of like a lot of hullabaloo happening there. So the store wasn't even open yet for the gingerbread. So we kind of just were able to like snap some pictures of it. And then we kind of had to get out of there because we didn't have time to wait around for like the presentation that they were going to do. So it was a little bit of a letdown that we didn't get to buy any gingerbread, but we still got to see the gingerbread castle at the Contemporary, which was cool. And it's just like, that was just the timing of this. It was like right in that transition period where they were finishing getting Christmas decorations up and kind of getting everything officially started. So that's just, how would I have any idea about that? So we got on the bus from the Contemporary to Animal Kingdom at that point, and had another just like really nice interaction with a family on the bus. We got on and the bus was like not super full, but there was already a family sitting in the back. And so Carrie went into full pouting mode. And the family, it was like a mom and dad and like probably like a, I don't know, 9-year-old and maybe 13-year-old boy. And they were like, oh, come sit with us. You can have the seat. And they moved for him to have the seat, which was like a little bit of, on one hand, I was like, don't indulge him, like don't give into it. But it was very sweet. And then Carrie, he's only almost 4 and was sitting next to this like 9 or 10-year-old boy who was like having a full conversation with him and just like a very, very sweet family and a very sweet boy. Like you don't always get, kids like that treat younger kids like that with like respect or talk to them like, oh, it's so uncool to be talking to a 4-year-old. No, he was like really sweet with him, was like telling him all about roller coasters and showing him these videos of him going on roller coasters at like Universal and all this stuff. And it was just another like really sweet interaction. And I was just like so grateful for people for just like, yeah, just being kind and like putting themselves out there to like talk to people instead of just, sitting, not speaking on the bus. So,
yeah. And the guests can make a huge difference. I can't remember if it was our last trip or the trip before that, but I remember posting on Instagram, guests have been so nice and this trip is so much better because of it. And you just don't ever know how it's going to go.
Yeah. And it does just add that like little extra something special, nice, especially for like riding the bus. Like it can just be riding the bus, but with a nice interaction, it can turn into something extra special.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes that could be really good or not.
Right. Yeah, so got on the bus, let's see, arrived at, around like 10:17 I have here. And the timed event we were trying to get to was the Nemo show. So they recommend arriving 20 minutes early. So I think once we got there, we pretty much just headed straight there. While we were heading up there, Carrie was saying that he didn't want to go to the show because he was scared. I thought he was saying he was scared of the sharks. Apparently he was scared of the boat, like the scene with the boat. So we we're talking to the cast members, got in and they like directed us to a specific entrance. We walked inside the theater and Carrie just lost it, like screaming, not happy, did not want to be there. So we got to the seating area and we're kind of trying to calm him down. But then at that point, I was just to my husband, I was like, can you just please like take him out. Like there's no, we don't even have, he doesn't have to see the show. It's okay. And I'm not going to force him to sit here and like obviously be screaming in this entire theater full of people. So Sydney and I stayed for the show. Carrie and Colin left and just did their own thing while we watched the show. So another one where the interpreters came out, it was one of the same interpreters, Damar, from the day before, and then one other lady, and I didn't catch her name. She was the only person's name that I didn't get, but we were chatting with them a little bit before the show and then saw the show. Sydney really liked this one too. A little bit apprehensive of like there's like this one big waving like anemone. He was not a big fan of that. But other than that, he really liked the show and the bubbles, of course, at the end. Big hit.
Uh-huh.
And I really love the Nemo show. I just think it's so cute. And it like for parents, especially, I do always get like a little bit choked up at the end because it's just like, the message about like, you've got to let your kids like go out on their own and you can't, try to control everything that they do. And that just always makes me like a little bit teary-eyed and is just heartwarming sitting there like with your kids. So I just always like that one. It's like it's just like a good, like parenting lesson.
How did your older son know that there was a boat and that it might be scary to him?
He has seen the show before and we also listen to the soundtrack a lot. So he, I think, knows like that music back and forth. And of course, like we talked to him after and he's like, oh yeah, I was just scared of the boat. And like, doesn't, seems like it's not any big thing, but it might have also just been like the time of day. Maybe he was hungry or just at that particular moment, he just did not want to see the show and wasn't going to be something I was going to force him to do. So, and then also obviously having both of us there, we could just kind of divide and conquer. So then he was fine after that. So, but it's funny because he's been to that show before and enjoyed it and he likes the soundtrack and he likes Nemo, but I don't know, kids are like that sometimes where they just change on a dime and you just got to go with it. So yeah, the show finished up about 11:30. Oh, sorry, no, is that when it started?
11 o'clock is my notes.
11 o'clock it starts and finishes at 11:30. So then we got back together, took us about like 15 minutes to sort of like reunite. At that point, Sydney needed to sleep. So I mobile ordered lunch, but it was still going to be like 30 minutes. That's something I wish I would have ordered it before the show started because mobile order is great, but if you're trying to order it and pick it up immediately, it's just not going to happen. So that kind of like threw a wrench in things a little bit because we felt like we were like had just gotten back together and then we were splitting up again because Sydney fell asleep in the stroller and then Carrie was still awake and was like bouncing around on the stroller and woke him up. And so Colin kind of just like brought Carrie back to me while I was waiting for the food and he took off again to try to get Sydney back to sleep, which he did fall back asleep. So he was walking around with him. Carrie waited with me while I got food. I just mobile ordered Flame Tree Barbecue. I think I mentioned that in the pre-show because I was excited about like the veggie option. And it was really good. So it was like the plant-based burnt ends. I don't know how to pronounce this. I should have looked this up, but it's like seitan, that like plant-based meat or whatever that thing is. I think that's what it was. It was really good. And I just got a hot dog for Carrie, which she ate 2 bites of. But we like went back to try to find seating and there's like a vast seating area in that restaurant, but like every single seat was full. So we got the worst seat in the house because we just like tried to find the first available seat and it was like one table that had a single chair at it because all the other chairs had been poached by other people and it was directly in the sun, but it was kind of like we were desperate. So, and I'm like balancing this tray full of food and drink and all this stuff trying to also get a child to walk with me. So at that point, I just like set the stuff down. I just tried to eat kind of quickly while Carrie just kind of like bopped around and had one bite of his hot dog. And then I just kind of like packaged up the rest of the food. I just kind of like folded it up in the little like paper boat and like stuck it in my backpack because I wasn't going to waste the whole hot dog. And then went to go meet up with my husband and Sid again. So it took us about 20 minutes all told to eat. And at that point, Carrie was trying to go to the bathroom. So we just went to the baby care center just for like a little bit of a break to kind of like try to go to the bathroom, get out of the heat for a little bit. So we just took a little pit stop in there. And then after that, headed to Rafiki's Planet Watch. So that was about 1:45. Got on the train. So we went to the petting zoo, kind of did that for a little bit. And there's not really that if you're not doing like the drawing thing, there's not really too much other stuff to do back there. We did get the Wilderness Explorer booklets when we got to Animal Kingdom. So there were a couple little of those badges for them to collect, which they enjoyed. But at this point, I was really tired. We were kind of splitting up a lot, and it just didn't feel like we were like the togetherness that I guess I was like hoping to feel kind of at that point. And also my back just really hurt. And I just felt like we were not going to make it to 3:30, which was the time that we were trying to get to watch the Lion King show. So it's funny because I think I mentioned in the pre-show, like we were just wanted to preserve the kids' energy and do whatever we needed to do to make it to the Lion King show. Turns out that I was the one who did not have the energy to make it for the rest of the day. So I kind of just like called it at that point and was like, I don't think we're going to make it to actually have, number one, have enough stuff to do to like, because we kind of done most of the stuff that we wanted, and then to have to wait in another line to watch the show. I will say, like, if the boneyard had still been open, I might have been able to make it because we could have just let the kids run while we sat and rested for a little bit. And it was hot. I think that's just another aspect of it. The rumors of Animal Kingdom being the hottest park might be true.
Yes.
So yeah, I just called it at this point. And whenever we like miss out on something we were planning to do, my husband just always says something to look forward to for next time. So that's kind of what I felt at this. And here, this is another good time to say like the formula that you always talk about of like 2 park days on, 1 park day off. If this had been a longer trip, or if I had, maybe had the ability to design it a little bit differently, that is a excellent strategy, and you should listen to that and pay attention to that, because it was like by the 3rd time we were up so early, even if we had not had to be at our reservation so early and had just had some time to chill in the morning, I think it might have made the difference. But this was just a hard day. And then again, it was another one where I was up earlier than intended. So, and up walking on my feet, and it does get to you after a few days. So that's something, again, another good lesson learned. Wasn't a day ruiner, like we did turn it around, but definitely like was not expecting to be that tired and to just like be in like physical distress.
Yeah.
So we did try to get some pictures at this point. I think we probably got the worst pictures of the trip here because we tried to take a picture in front of the Christmas tree, and it was like no clouds, complete direct sunlight right where the picture is set up. So it was like, yeah, I think we just look terrible because we're all squinting, or the kids' eyes are probably even closed, but we tried it. It didn't work out, but that's all right. It's like the weather was so great this whole time. It was like blue skies, like absolutely no clouds, not a single drop of rain the entire trip. Amazing for pictures, depending on the time of day, not great. So,
yeah,
you win some, you lose some.
I like a cloudy day. It keeps it a little bit cooler and the sun's not in your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And you can feel it at Animal Kingdom, especially. You can just feel it. So we left the park about 3 and we're back to the hotel at 3:25. And I think at this point, my goal was just like, I need to recover from this like funky mood that I'm in, because I was just not feeling the best. And it was kind of like, the tension was building, and I was like, we got to save this day. So we just had a little bit of a late lunch. We think we just grabbed some pizza and like a cupcake or something at the food court. We went back to our room. This was about 4, and we just kind of hung out for a bit. I think we just let the kids watch some cartoons, and just like, I just needed to sit down and like be off my feet. So we were kind of like, well, what do I want to do for the rest of the night? And then we just decided to go to the pool. So we left the room about 5 to go to the pool. And this time we actually like got our full suits on and everything and like got in the pool. So Carrie talked about going to the kiddie pool, and then we went in that area. He dipped his toe in and said, I'm ready to go in the big pool. So Sydney didn't really want to swim. He hung out just dangling his feet in the pool, but I got a life jacket on Carrie. I love that they provide them there. That's really nice. And we went in the pool. It was like one of those things, like a little bit cold when you get in, but then you get used to it. And we had like the best time. We were just kind of like swimming around, and then we were watching people go down the slide. So they do have like a little water slide there. And I went down the slide because I just wanted to. It's just fun. And I love swimming. I'm a water baby. I like grew up swimming, like was a swimmer in high school. I just like, anytime I get in a pool, I just feel like a kid again. So I went down the slide, and then we're kind of just hanging out there. And my husband's like, Carrie, do you want to go down the slide? And he was a little bit like, maybe I want to do it. Maybe I don't. We asked the lifeguard, and they said that he does have to go down alone. they can't go down like with the parent. So we're like, okay, like, why don't we just try it? Like, Colin, you could take him up there. There were a bunch of other families there that were like catching their kids coming down the slide. So we knew that was okay. So Colin took him up there, and there was another little girl like about his same age who also was going down for the first time, and her dad was waiting at the bottom. So I was hanging out at the bottom ready to catch him. And I was like, I think he might like, just knowing him, like, again, this is the child that rides the bench on the carousel. He's not a thrill seeker. But we're waiting there at the bottom, and I'm like just looking up, waiting for Colin to say like, yes, he's going, or no, he's not going. And he went down it, and he did get stuck like right at the corner and used his feet to like scoot him. But then I was waiting for him to come around the corner, and I was like, is he going to be terrified or is he going to be happy? And he came down with a smile on his face, and I was like over the moon. It was just like one of those moments. I was like, I can't believe you did it. Like, you were so brave and you went down the slide all by yourself. And I think it helped that he saw that little girl go down right before him. And then he went on a second time. And it was just like, what a great end to the trip, a great end to the night. Like, after we kind of had like a little bit of a, I wouldn't say stressful, but just like exhausting morning in Animal Kingdom, like to just have like 1 hour in the pool that just like was such a fun time. And Carrie was smiling the whole time. It was just like great to be in the water with him. And that was another like core memory from that trip that I will remember.
And some of those things you just can't plan.
Yeah, exactly. And another great thing of just like we took advantage of the amenities that were at the resort and doing stuff that was there. So I love that core memory for sure. So we swam for about an hour, which probably felt longer just because of like it was a little bit chillier, and I don't know, it's just like time is just like that when it moves a little bit slower when you're having fun and really in the moment. So we headed back to the room just to bathe and change into dry clothes. And then we actually went back out right near the pool. They also had a campfire and they were doing s'mores. So we went back out to the campfire. They had free marshmallows, and then you could buy a s'mores kit. So we did buy one s'mores kit, and I think that was like $7.50 for anyone wondering. That was also really fun. Colin helped Carrie roast some marshmallow. We made a little s'more and then took it back into the quick service restaurant there to just grab some dinner. So we grabbed like some dinner to go for ourselves, and then we still had like just like Uncrustables and like fruit back in the room for them to eat. So we didn't feel the need to spend money on a meal for them, especially since we're leaving the next day. So we need to eat up what we have. We both had like a little bed dinner. So we put on Winnie the Pooh. The boys ate their little sandwiches in bed, and I have some really cute pictures of them eating dinner in their bed. Colin and I shared our meal. Really random, but what we got there, it was like, I think it was called like the Mediterranean bowl, and it was veggie based. So it was like couscous with this really good sauce and like veggie meatballs. That was like one of the best things, like so random, but really, really good. Like, I wish I could have that again today. Like really, really good. So they definitely have like put a lot of time and effort, just Disney in general, into like their plant-based options, and they do not like scrimp on them. They're like no less delicious or well thought out than like the other option. So I was happy about that. Yeah. And then we just tried to like, after we were done eating, just lay the kids down to bed, and then tried to pack up a little bit since we were leaving the next day. Did as much as we could, but we're so tired and ended up again, probably asleep by like between 8 and 9, I think.
Yeah. But a day that turned around.
It did. And yeah, and learn my lesson for next time. Like on that third day, if you're doing 2 park days in a row, like give yourself either some time in the morning and do like an afternoon at the park, or just take the day off entirely if you can, if you have a long enough trip. And of course, I wish that this trip had been like, 2 to 3 days longer than it was. So maybe next time.
There are parents who say, my kids aren't going to just let me sit still, so I might as well plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a non-park day doesn't appeal to everyone because of that, I think. Because it's like, we might as well go.
Right. And I think that's also fine if that works out. If you can, like, I think for me, it would be like minimizing the walking, like plan more activities, things that you're sitting down, because that was for me, it was just like the physical exhaustion of being on my feet. I just needed to like sit and just not be up. So if there had been more opportunity for that, or just like, yeah, taking the morning a little bit or easier. So
Yeah. Just a non-park day of some sort can be nice
Yeah.
because the parks themselves obviously do require so much walking.
Right. And then like I'm the type of person too that if I'm at the park, I want to be doing stuff.
Mhm.
So it's kind of hard. You have to find that balance of like, especially when you're spending money on the ticket. If we were like annual pass holders or something, maybe that would be different, that we could just go to the park and not be trying to do a ton of stuff, but not the case for us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next day was Sunday, November 16th, and you had a morning flight.
Yep, we did. So Colin and I woke up pretty early to finish packing up. It wasn't kind of just one of those like chaotic, like down to the wire, getting everything back in the bags and all of that stuff. And I was worried about like the weight of our bags because I think on the way there we had to hastily switch some stuff around. But I think we ended up having, had offloaded enough stuff, and then the things that we added, because we did pretty good on like souvenirs. We only bought a couple things. Didn't take up too much extra weight in the bags. But the driver was there 6:30 as planned, and he was able to meet us at like the Magnolia Terrace like roundabout.
Mhm.
So we didn't have to bring all of our stuff to the lobby, which was really nice. I'm really happy that they were able to do that. I think like in the initial planning, it says like, oh, they'll pick you up at the lobby, but like they send you like a text. And I was texting with him and asking if he could meet us there, and he did, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
That was another big advantage of this mode of transportation. Yeah, we were on the road at 6:45, and yeah, our flight was set to leave at 8:50, and that was all on time and stuff. We got there and we used like they have like a family line at the TSA check, and that all worked out. I think it was like always when you're getting on a flight, you're a little bit nervous about like making it in time, but got through security. The flight went well. And then when we got home, it was nap time and we all took a nap. And we're able to like then just, yeah, have the rest of the day like recovering.
So a lot about your schedule worked out well.
It did. Yeah. And I was really, it's always obviously pleasing when you're a planning person and your plan works out. I think like a big part of that is like, because I've been to Disney before, I think I was able to plan knowing like how long things were going to take. Because I think like if you're maybe a first timer, you're thinking like, oh, how long possibly could a bus ride take? But you have to factor in all that stuff of like walking to the bus stop, waiting for the bus, getting on the bus, walking to the security, getting through security, all that stuff. So I think that really helped, like having all those timings. And I've learned these past several trips with the kids, it's always just like, don't overpack the plan. Like, just let it happen. If you fit extra things in, that's great. But it's almost like better if you underpromise and overdeliver kind of thing.
Yeah. Totally get that. Yeah. Identify your must-dos and then everything else is just a bonus.
Yes. And I definitely felt that was the case for this trip. And then you have that time for like those spontaneous things, which ended up being like, did not have it in the plan for us to go swimming on that night. And that ended up being one of the best memories of the trip.
Mm-hmm. I think that's perfect. That's exactly what I would do if I had little kids. I would be like, here's the loose plan. And then also let's improv a little bit.
Yes.
And sometimes you rope drop the playground.
Yes, sometimes you do. And also like that's obviously an element of we have been to Disney before and we'll be back. So we're not trying to cram every single once in a lifetime experience into one trip. And like that is a privilege to be able to do that and to be able to plan in that way. For us, this trip, it just worked out so beautifully. And yeah, really like pretty much could not be happier with how things went.
Well, speaking of future trips, how often do you think you will plan to go?
This was the trip, like the past couple times we've traveled with the kids, I got back and we had like, it had been, a little bit of a like harder trip, rougher travel day. And I was like, I'm good for a while. This was a trip, like I was ready to go back. Like the minute we touched back down in Wisconsin, I'm like, and I got that email from Disney that's like, book within 7 days. And I'm like, I'm really tempted. So we don't have anything on the books yet, and we'd like to do some non-Disney travel in the next couple years, but I would definitely go like this time of year again was really nice. I would do that again. So I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of how it always works with us for Disney trips where we're like, we're good for a while. We're not going to go. And then a couple months in, get the Disney itch. And then, oh, whoops, I booked another trip.
Yeah, it's a hobby. So it's like,
It
what do you
is.
do with all this information and stuff that you've learned?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds good. Is there anything else you want to share?
I did mention some budget things, but if people are interested, I do have like more of a breakdown. So the hotel in total was about 1,400. So for I think it was it 4 nights? So we were there. Yeah, 1,400. Our tickets. So we didn't have to get tickets for the youngest. It was 2 adults and 1 child, was $1,543. And those I got through, I have like this benefits thing through my work, which you can get like very slightly discounted tickets. It's not a huge discount, but it's a little bit discounted off of the rack price. And it's definitely same with Disney tickets. If you buy directly from them, you save more the longer the park ticket is. So it wasn't a huge savings for a 3-day ticket, but a little bit. Airfare was $622 cash because I used points on part of it. I think I mentioned before the car was $285 plus tip. The minivan was $53. The stroller rental was a little less than $120. I think I did like a rough like napkin calculation of the food. We spent about $700 on food the whole time. And that was like 2 sit-down meals that were like, the bulk of that. About $100 on merchandise. We just got like a couple plushies and then I got a pair of ears and that was about it for that. And then $20 on our arcade card. And that was and so that's like a total, like a little under $5,000 for that.
Appreciate you sharing that so that we can see what all different budgets look like.
Yeah. I think like another lesson learned or thing from this trip is this is how Disney gets you, is like staying at the moderate versus the value. Like I did really feel it. So I think next time we go, I would like to try to stay at a moderate resort again. And the nice thing about Port Orleans is like it's I think a little bit more on the cheaper side of the moderates, partly because I think of the transportation, which I do think is a legitimate, like good, constructive criticism of Port Orleans is the transportation options are lacking compared to some of the other resorts. So I think I might want to try to stay at maybe Caribbean Beach next time to have that Skyliner access and just to try out something that we haven't done before. But 100% would stay at Riverside again. Had a really good experience there. Loved the vibe of the resort. It just really fit our family and our needs on this particular trip. And I just really liked it. So I would stay there again.
Good to know. Riverside used to be number 1 moderate, and then the other moderates kind of up their game. So it's like, now we've got some competition.
Yeah.
So I will say that on the Skyliner, if you have a double stroller, you have to collapse it. And so that can like lessen the appeal of the Skyliner if you're doing the same thing as you do on the bus. But if you have a single stroller, it's easier. So, pros and cons.
Yeah. And also one of the last times we were there and I rode the Skyliner, I did get a little bit like ill, like just like motion sick, looking out at like the weird like dot stuff that they had, like from the illustration that they have on there, the wrap.
Yes. And you can request a car or a gondola that isn't wrapped.
Oh, I think I'm going to do that next time because I love the Skyliner and then it just kind of hit me unexpectedly. And I was like, oh no, this is kind of like tainting my experience a little bit. But
yeah, I can see that.
So,
right. Well, I'm glad you had a good trip and I appreciate taking such good notes because recapping this is a lot of work. So thanks, Aubrey.
Yeah. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my conversations with Aubrey. I'm always into learning from different people's perspectives, and this was fascinating. I love that Disney World can help so many people in different situations feel comfortable, whether it's ASL, food allergies, etc. We did continue talking on Patreon, so if you want to join the after chat, that is up right now in both audio and video form. That will wrap up this episode of WDW Prep to Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, WDWPrepSchool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 489. Until next time, I will see you on the site.